These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are X-Chair, changing the world of seating. More info at xchairtom.com. Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at gabby.com/Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouth-watering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code TOM. Boll and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bollandbranch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM.
It's the Thom Hartmann University Book Club. Today we're reading from The Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study by Stefano Harney and Fred Moten. This is from the introduction. It starts with love, exchange, fellowship. It ends as it begins, in motion, in between various modes of being and belonging, and on the way to new economies of giving, taking, being with and for. And it ends with a ride in a Buick Skylark on a way to another place altogether. Surprising, perhaps, after we have engaged dispossession, debt, dislocation, and violence, but not surprising when you have understood that the projects of fugitive planning and black study are mostly about reaching out to find connection. They're about making common cause with the brokenness of being. A brokenness, I would venture to say, that is also blackness, that remains blackness, and will, despite all, remain broken, because this book is not a prescription for repair. If we do not seek to fix what has been broken, then what? How do we resolve to live with brokenness, with being broke, which is also what Moten and Harney called debt? Well, given that debt is sometimes a history of giving, at other times a history of taking, at all times a history of capitalism, and given that debt also signifies a promise of ownership but never delivers on that promise, we have to understand that debt is something that cannot be paid off. Debt, as Harney puts it, presumes a kind of individualized realization to a naturalized economy that is predicated upon exploitation. Can we have, he asks, another sense of what is owed that does not presume a nexus of activities like recognition and acknowledgement, payment and gratitude? Can debt become a principle of elaboration? Moten thinks Moten links economic debt to the brokenness of being in the interview with Stefan Shukatis, who he acknowledges that some debts should be paid and that much is owed, especially to black people, by white people. And yet he says, I also know that it is, that what it is that is supposed to be repaired is irreparable. It can't be repaired. The only thing we can do is tear this stuff down completely and build something new, end of quote. The Undercommons do not come to pay their debts, to repair what has been broken, to fix what has been undone. If you want to know what the Undercommons wants, what Moten and Harney want, what black people, indigenous people, queers, and poor people want, what we, the we who cohabit in the space of the Undercommons want, it is this. We cannot be satisfied with the recognition and acknowledgement generated by the very system that denies A, that anything was ever broken, and B, that we deserve to be the broken part. So we refuse to ask for recognition, and instead we want to take apart, dismantle, tear down that structure right now. That right now limits our ability to find each other, to see beyond it, and to access the places that we know live outside its walls. We cannot say what new structures will replace the ones we live with yet, because once we have torn stuff down, we will inevitably see more and see differently and feel a new sense of wanting and being and becoming. What we want after the break will be different from what we think we want before the break, and both are necessarily different from the desires that issue from being in the dark. Let's come at this by another path. In the melancholic and visionary 2009 film version of Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, 1963, Max, the small seeker who leaves his room, his home, his family to find the world beyond, finds a world of lost and lonely beasts, and they promptly make him their king. Max is the first king the wild things have had, whom they did not eat, and who did not, in turn, try to eat them. And the beasts are the first grown things that Max has met, who want his opinion, his judgment, and his rule. Max's power is that he is small while they are big. He promises the beasts that he has no plans to eat them, and that this is more than anyone has ever promised them. He promises them that he will find ways through and around and will slip through the cracks and re-crack the cracks if they fill up. He promises to keep sadness at bay and to make the world with the wild creatures that roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. That Max fails to make the wild things happy or to save them or to make the world with them is less important than the fact that he found them and he recognized in them the end of something and potentially the path to an alternative in his world, or an alternative to his world, excuse me. The wild things were not the utopian creatures of fairy tales. They were the rejected and lost subjects of the world Max had left behind. And because he shuttles between the Oedipal land where his mother rules and the ruined world of the wild, he knows the parameters of the real. He sees what is included and what is left out. And he is now able to set sail for another place, a place that is neither the home he left nor the home to which he wants to return. Moten and Harney want to gesture to another place, a wild place that is not simply the leftover space that limbs real and regulated zones of polite society. Rather, it is a wild place that continuously produces its own unregulated wilderness. The zone we enter through Moten and Harney is ongoing and exists in the present, and as Harney puts it, some kind of demand is already being enacted, fulfilled in the call itself. While describing the riots of London in 2011, Harney suggests that the riots and insurrections do not separate out the request, the demand, and the call. Rather, they enact the one in the other. The book is The Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So, welcome to the program, by the way. Thank you so much for listening or watching or however you may be getting our program today. How do we prevent the next grifter-in-chief? I want to get into that in just a second. Professor Richard Wolff will be with us in our second hour. How can Biden and Congress realistically do things for the economy? Julian Brave NoiseCat will be with us about what Joe Biden and his cabinet picks might mean for Native Americans and for Democrats. And Teri Mills is going to drop by in our third hour about why we need a national nurse campaign that we have promoted here over the years, and I want to reprise today. But to begin with, how do we prevent the next grifter-in-chief? You got any thoughts? I mean, after the Nixon, the bribery scandals and everything else. I mean, in my mind, the Nixon bribery scandals are the biggest part of Watergate. They were generally considered a footnote because of the political stuff that was going on. But, he was bribed by the milk lobby. He was bribed by Jimmy Hoffa. And God only knows who else he was taking bribes from. Nixon was on the take, and people regularly were walking into the White House with briefcases filled with $100 bills, or maybe they were $1,000 bills back then. I think they hadn't taken it out of circulation at that point. And, I mean, he got $500,000 from the milk lobby in a briefcase. He got $1 million from Jimmy Hoffa in a briefcase. That was Richard Nixon. So Congress, after Nixon left office, now those things were already arguably illegal, but Congress really tightened things up. And they said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Right? And we're going to put individual contribution limits on. We're going to control corporate contributions. We're going to start controlling the flow of cash into the political system. And that all happened in 1974, 75, 76. And then in 1976, the Supreme Court took a meat axe to it. The Supreme Court ruled in their Buckley decision, no, you can't stop rich people from giving money to politicians. All they have to do is declare it, right? And they don't even have to declare it in a way that anybody will know before the election. And then 2 years later, they said, oh, and this is in the Buckley versus Bellotti decision in 78, they said, oh, you can't stop corporations from giving money to politicians. And ever since then, the Republican Party and a few of the Democrats, it used to be more, now it's less, and the numbers are shrinking every day. But the entire Republican Party has been on the take from right-wing billionaires and giant corporations. And so now we're in a situation where Donald Trump is pushing a pardon for himself and his grifter family and the grifters who surround him. And Mitch McConnell is pushing a pardon for the corporations that have been killing, sickening, disabling, and abusing their employees. They're both all about pardons. I mean, we have had administrations where family members were brought in, right? Bobby Kennedy was the Attorney General for Jack Kennedy. But nobody ever in their wildest dreams thought that Bobby Kennedy would need a pardon for crimes he committed while he was working in the White House. Nobody ever thought that. But Ivanka and Jared, oh my God. Just Jared going over to the Middle East to hustle $1 billion out of one of our allies that we are now shipping F-35s to after there'd been a congressional moratorium to not further militarize the Middle East. You put that at the top of the list. I mean, we've got, this family of grifters in the White House. In the last, 3 weeks? Almost 4 weeks? Well, no, it's exactly a month. November 3rd, the election. Since that election, Donald Trump has raised $170 million. He's not running for office. He's raised $170 million. I got 4 more fundraisers from him, fundraising emails from him in the mail this morning. I mean, some of them came in overnight, right? And Trump has given top secret information to foreign adversaries. He's embraced dictators and autocrats around the world. He's enthusiastically damaged our relationships with our allies. I mean, it's almost like he's working for a foreign government. And now we're experiencing, we just had 3,000 people die in a day in the United States. That's 9/11. We're having Donald Trump and his lack of action on the coronavirus, while Taiwan and South Korea and Japan and Australia and New Zealand, they're all looking at COVID death rates of less than 2 people per 100,000. We're at 47 people per 100,000. I mean, it's like 20 times more. And why? Because they took the virus seriously and Donald Trump wanted to play golf. And honest to God, that's it. He's spent half his presidency on his own golf courses, squeezing government money into his businesses while he's out on the links, instead of taking care of the business of the country. Our healthcare system is collapsing. The economy's been shredded. Every day, but right in the middle of this, every day, Americans all across the country are getting multiple fundraising appeals from Trump. I mean, it's just a giant grift. And this is nuts. This grift really, it started with Reagan. Gingrich did it in a big way in the 1990s when he had his Contract on America, and 6 of the 10 items were all pointing to the same piece of legislation that cut taxes on rich people and big corporations. The Republicans' government can't do anything grift is now right out there in the open. Everybody can see it. It's killed over 250,000 Americans. It's led to open, naked, unabashed criminality in the White House. I mean, even 2nd and 3rd level functionaries in the Trump White House are breaking the law. The Hatch Act at the top of the list, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. Trump wants his pardons for himself and his criminal cronies. McConnell wants pardons for the corporations that give him money, the big meatpacking plants and warehouse operations. And they're both probably going to get away with it, which means that the new Congress has to do something about the corruption of money in our government. So, number one. Number two, Republicans think, I really should say conservatives think, because this actually is part of a conservative worldview, but I don't think that there's any Republicans left who don't call themselves conservatives. You used to have the Bob Packwood Republicans who call themselves liberals. They're long gone. So anyhow, Republicans think that the only way that you can guarantee that somebody's going to behave in a way that is positive is to frighten or threaten them. Seriously, think about this for a minute. This was the rationale. John Kelly laid it out when he was chief of staff for Donald Trump. He said, if we don't punish those children coming across the border looking for asylum here, the refugees, if we don't punish them, more will come. We need to punish them in such a severe way that the word travels to Central and South America that you will be hurt if you go to America. And that philosophy still holds. That's still, Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, all of them, that's still their philosophy. The only way to motivate people is to punish them. And therefore, the Trump administration is holding back phone numbers and addresses that they could be giving to these children, or the guardians of these children, about where their parents are. They're intentionally keeping these families separated. As we're going into Christmas, for God's sake. They do the same thing with workers. This is why Republicans are opposed to unemployment insurance. They think that if the government is paying you, you won't have an incentive to have a job. Which is just patently wrong. I mean, it might be true for a very tiny percentage of people, but the vast majority of people want something meaningful. They want to have work. But the Republicans, they believe that you got to punish people, and that's why they want to let the unemployment benefits expire at the end of this month. More on the other side of this break.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling, right? Well, I'll tell you about what the CDC just came out with in just a minute. And welcome back, Maverick in Edmonds, Washington. Hey, Maverick, what's on your mind?
Morning, Tom. Hey, good morning. So to answer your opening question, what do we do to prevent grifters in the future in the office? We prosecute them. We prosecute them in a fair and open and nonpartisan manner. And if you'll indulge me for just a few seconds, there was a really terrific movie, thank you, that came out several years ago called Smoke Signals about a couple of Native American folks on a tribe in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And there was a line in there that always resonated with me. And one kid said that, some people are like fire, and everything they touch, they destroy. And some people are like ashes, and everything that touches them gets scattered to the wind. And we've obviously got an amazingly destructive force in the White House right now. And it can't be allowed to happen again, which is why I think we have to prosecute it. And by the way, if you don't like that movie, I will send you an autographed copy of my book if I ever write one.
Okay, Maverick. I will check it out. What was the name of the movie again? Smoke Signals?
Smoke Signals. It's a really, really wonderful movie, and I don't give movies 2 thumbs up very easily.
Okay, Smoke Signals. I got it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great talking with you. James in Federal Way, Washington, listening on KBCS. Hey, James, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I'll send you a copy of my book, too, if I ever write one. But I wanted to say, along the same line, so until somebody's incarcerated, we're going to have to put up with these people every time. Nixon all the way on. I don't get me wrong, but ever since Nixon, somebody's needed to do some time, or we're going to have to deal with this over and over again. And I can't think of a better candidate than President Scary Clown here for this.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, you know, I mean, this is, people say, well, we've never prosecuted a president before. Well, we've never had a professional criminal and grifter in the White House before. This guy has been mobbed up since the 1980s. He's been committing fraud since the 1970s. You know, ripping people off, including his own father and his brother. And I mean, it's like, where do you draw the line? Well, I think the line was like way back behind Donald Trump. You know, I mean, you, on a scale of 1 to 10, right, in terms of corruption, Nixon was a 3 and Trump is a 10. It's like most presidents are a 1.
Right on.
I mean, or a 0 even. I mean, you know, Jimmy Carter was a -5, right? He was an honorable man. I'm sorry, say it again, James.
Yeah, he's my hero, Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
But, you know, I came back from you know where. I'd been over there 67 through 71 in the ASA overseas. I come back here to the land of big PX. I go into the grocery stores, and that man Trump is in the tabloids. He single-handedly cured me of ever wanting to read the tabloid instead. I'm in line there at the grocery store.
71, was that Marla Maples?
Oh, yeah, and just one thing after another, it's always been negative with the guy.
Yeah.
And like Maverick,
the guy's
said,
nuts.
you know, some people are like ashes. You touch them and you scatter to the wind.
Yeah, there you go. James, I got to run. Thank you for the call. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. So John Kasich was recently on CNN talking about how Democrats need to be listening to rural America, words to that effect. No, I think Democrats need to be talking to rural America and reminding rural America that it was a Democratic president that got them Social Security. It was a Democratic president that brought electricity to rural America, the RTA through, or the REA rather through the Franklin Roosevelt administration. It was the Democratic Party who brought phones to rural America. It was the Democratic Party that brought Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and public education to rural America, subsidized all those things. Democrats don't need to be listening to rural America. They need to be talking to rural America. There's over 1,500 right-wing radio stations in rural America talking smack all the time, 24/7, and none in rural America carrying a progressive message. That's what Democrats need to be paying attention to. You can check out our new video on this over at thomhartmann.com. So a few other pieces of this, I see these all as kind of the same story, which is the ongoing corruption by the billionaire class, giant corporations, and right-wing hacks in the Republican Party, a few of them in the Democratic Party, but you know, they're few and far between increasingly, thank God. And it's just mind-boggling. I was talking about how Miller and Trump are refusing to release the phone numbers and addresses that they have been able to find for the parents of children that they are holding in detention, or that they have put into foster care, or that they have already adopted out, or that they have, God only knows. I mean, there are people speculating that they have sold them into child trafficking. You know, that's a little out there, but hey, when it's thousands of children, and nobody's keeping track of anything, anything's possible. And that same philosophy is why Republicans oppose unemployment benefits. It's why they oppose housing benefits. It's why they oppose food stamps. It's why they oppose Social Security. It's why they oppose Medicare. It's particularly why they oppose Medicaid and Obamacare, because they believe that if you don't have housing, food, or health care, that will so sufficiently motivate you that you'll go out and get a job to provide those things to you. Sadly, well over half the jobs in America don't pay enough to provide housing, don't offer health care, and don't have any job security, probably more than half nowadays. But you know, so it's really easy to point out that their whole philosophy, and Reagan, you know, used to basically recite this regularly. You know, their whole philosophy is just sick. It's sick and twisted. It is Thomas Hobbes on steroids. I mean, Thomas Hobbes, and kind of the father of the conservative movement in a way. And it's just, you know, Hobbes, who said that the nature of man is evil, essentially. Without the iron fist of church and state, the life of man will be nasty, short, and brutish, right? This is their world. And this is why they bow so quickly to the iron fist of Donald Trump. These people are authoritarian followers who are following an ideology that says that wealthy people and big corporations are literally the new monarchs. And we need to listen to them, we need to trust them, we need to let them pick our politicians because they know what's best, and the proof of that is that they've got all that money. It's you know, 21st century neo-Calvinism. Meanwhile, the CDC just reported that the true coronavirus death toll, this is again another example of this, is now 400,000. The CDC, when they're looking at unexplained deaths, right now, deaths nationwide, this is from the CDC itself, quote, deaths nationwide were 19% higher than normal from March 15 to November 14. Altogether, the analysis shows that 345,000 more people than normal have died in the United States during that period, a number that may be an undercount since recent death statistics are still being updated. Why? Because Donald Trump is using Ronald Reagan's philosophy of the government can't do anything right. Government, this isn't the government's job. Government's job is to punish people. Run prisons, fund the police, have a tough-ass military. That's it. That's the government's job. So if people are getting sick, good luck, guys. You have more incentive to work. And the giant corporations are like, more terrified workers that we can pay $7.25 an hour and no benefits to. Yeah. You get it? I mean, even the coronavirus, even the response of this administration to the coronavirus is completely consistent with Reaganism and William F. Buckleyism and George Willism and, you know, all these conservative thinkers that you cannot provide safety and security to people because if you do, they won't go to work. Franklin Roosevelt and Lyndon Johnson, on the other hand, said, you know, if people have decent housing, if they have access to health care, if they have access to good, safe food, clean air, and water, you know, in other words, they have a foundation to stand on, then they will not only be enthusiastic about going to work, but then they'll do things like starting new businesses and energize the economy and revive our economy. And frankly, Franklin Roosevelt and Lyndon Johnson created a social safety net, a foundation on which people stood. I certainly did on numerous occasions, on which people stood so they could take the next step. They didn't need to have a red-hot poker stuck in their back. All they needed was a floor to stand on. But Republicans are like, oh no, you can't give people a floor to stand on. That's not conservative. FDR said, a necessitous man is not a free man. You're not free if you're hungry. You're not free if you're homeless. You're not free if you don't have a job and can't find a decent job. He was right.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Exposing the con and conservative. I'll pick up your phone calls after this. I do have a couple other smaller stories to share with you, too, if we go through the hour. Hey, I have a challenge for you. We really need to build Free Speech TV's listener base. We need to have, we need more viewers. listener base, viewer base. We need more viewers, and you know, the more people who are watching the network and really engaged and engrossed and loving the network, the more people will be donating money during these pledge drives like the one we're in right now. Call now, 877-378-8669. So what can you do? Well, in addition to supporting Free Speech TV financially right now, and I'll get to that in just a second, I'm putting out a Twitter challenge. I'm going to tweet out, actually I tweeted out yesterday, what do you love about Free Speech TV? And when you say Free Speech TV, it's at Free Speech TV, all one run together word. That's their Twitter handle. And I believe that there's a Free Speech TV Facebook page as well. But I'm going to focus this on Twitter. Either respond to me or create a brand new tweet that has my, that comes to me as well, and I'll promote it and whatnot. And I will follow you, in fact. So the thing would be at Thom, Thom _Hartmann. And so that's my Twitter handle. So, tweet that to me and to at Free Speech TV. And tell us what your favorite thing is, what you love the most about Free Speech TV. Is it a particular program? Is it the fact that the network's available to you on satellite TV? Is it the coverage of a particular issue? What do you care about the most, and why does Free Speech TV help you meet those needs? And let's get the buzz going. Let's get it out there. Let's bring more people into this. There is so much to do. Anyhow, it's our Free Speech TV fund drive. It's as we're heading into the holiday season, trying to recover from the political season, although it's going to continue until January. But right now, Free Speech TV needs money, and any donation that you make that is a sustaining donation, in other words, a donation where you say, yes, I commit to, take my credit card and here, or number, and ding it for $5 a month for the next 12 months, or $10 until I tell you not to, or $30 a month, or whatever, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everybody who does that, number one, you're going to get this calendar magnet, which is really kind of cool. It's a refrigerator magnet that's got activism stuff on it, as well as this coming year. But additionally, Jeffrey in California is matching donations like this between November 30th and December 6th. So we're right in the middle of that right now, December 3rd. He is matching those donations up to $7,000. So your donation right now, if it's a monthly sustaining donation, he's not matching the one-time gifts, but if it's a monthly sustaining donation, your donation gets essentially doubled in terms of its impact to Free Speech TV. So call now, 877-378-8669. A bunch of goodies for one-time gifts, and I'll just run through those quickly, although I'm telling you, the monthly recurring stuff is the most important. But with a $20 gift, you have a choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, it's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the Change Never Happens from the Top Down tote bag. With a $75 gift, the Free Speech TV black hat, or my favorite, the Thom Hartmann Program mug. With a $100 gift, you get your choice of a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which I swear is going to be a collector's item one day. With $120, you have your choice of the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, the Free Speech TV social distancing kit, or either of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of Oligarchy. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet. There'll be one January 13th and one February 17th, or the Free Speech TV hoodie, or the set of my book, Monopoly and Oligarchy. And with a $360 gift, it's the Thom Hartmann University Winter Box, Oligarchy, Monopolies, 2 face masks, and the Quarantine tumbler. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Indeed, please call now, 877-378-8669. And make your contribution, whether it's a one-time gift, and you want to get the 2020 I survived 2020 Tumblr. I mean, it doesn't literally say that, but obviously that's implied. Something for kids or grandkids, whatever it may be. Or whether you would like to get the magnet and have your donation doubled by Jeffrey in California if you give a sustaining gift, if you commit to a certain amount of money over, on a monthly basis, basically over time, and become a sustaining member. The sustaining members, in my mind, are at the heart of Free Speech TV. And, people who have said, yes, on an ongoing basis, every single month, I commit to help in a small way, but hey, it adds up. I commit to help Free Speech TV. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Climate scientist Dr. Michael Mann joins the science revolution for the full episode this week. He's the creator of the hockey stick graphic that Al Gore made famous to describe global warming. His latest book is The New Climate War, and he drops by to answer the question, have humans passed the point of no return in the climate crisis? And is there hope? He also explains why storms are getting worse because of climate change. Plus, what will it mean to return to the Paris Agreement, and how will things change with scientists back in charge in the Biden administration? Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just one thing I wanted to add to what I was saying before, and then I'll pick up your phone calls here. Over on Medium, Aaron Huerta's Medium.com, which I've found increasingly to be a fascinating website where, I'll just leave it at that. You can check it out. I have no relationship with them. But in any case, he points out that the title of the piece is No, Trump Does Not Represent Half the Country. And he points out that conservatives and commentators and even regular news people on the networks are saying, well, liberals, you need to listen to the other half of the country. Right? Half the country voted for Trump. See, you've got slightly less than half, but you got to listen to these people. You got to take them seriously. And this is just, this is their way of saying, stop pushing for a Green New Deal. Stop pushing for Medicare for all. Stop pushing for a cleaner environment. Stop pushing, for extended unemployment benefits and housing supports and things like that. Stop doing all that stuff because you need to listen to the people who voted for Trump. They're half the country. Well, let's just do some simple math. Trump got 74 million votes. That's 22% of the country. In the Republican primary, he got 14 million votes. That's 4.5% of the country. The people who watch Fox News, we've got to consider their feelings. They are, 3.5 million people. That's 1% of the country. People who attend all of Trump's rallies, you add them all up together, they represent 0.4% of the country. And, if you think of all the times that you've seen these guys in the Trump red hats on TV where people are seriously, well, what do you think? Who are you going to vote for? What does America think now? When what they mean really is white, racist, right-wing America. If you look at the numbers, they represent less than 0.5% of America. So why do these conservatives keep saying, well, half the country? Well, obviously, it's because they want us to take seriously these obscene and absurd ideas that immigrants won't stop coming to the United States until you punish them, when the easy solution is A, let's have some compassion for people who are actual refugees. We always have. B, let's help those countries these people are coming from get their act together so their people aren't fleeing. And C, let's go back to enforcing the labor laws that were enforced prior to 1986 when Reagan stopped enforcing them, and no president has started since then. that say that when an employer hires somebody who's not a citizen, who's not legally eligible to work, that employer can go to jail or at least get a large fine. And you do those simple things and you've solved your so-called illegal immigrant problem. But, oh no, we've got to be hysterical about this, all right? We've got to punish these people because punish is always the first instinct of conservatives. Nurture is always the first instinct of liberals. I mean, it really is that difference. Liberals believe that human beings are fundamentally good. Obviously, there's some among us, you know, the Charlie Mansons of the world, who are so damaged, and the Donald Trumps of the world, so damaged that you really can't call them good. In fact, you might call them evil. But at its core, humanity is good. The majority of people are good. And we can trust the majority of people. That's the liberal worldview. It's the one that John Locke laid out in 1765. It's the one that Thomas Jefferson laid out in the Declaration of Independence. It's the one that we have held as the pole star for this country since we became a democratic republic in 1789. This is us. We believe in the goodness of people. But you've got then these conservatives who are still, you know, clinging to Thomas Hobbes, saying, no, 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 you're all wrong. People are evil. We got to have a lot of prisons. We got to have long sentences. We got to scare the crap out of people. You know, people go to prison in the UK or any European country. Somebody commits a minor crime. You know, they shoplift or something like that, or maybe even a middle minor crime. They break into somebody's house. In European countries, they go to jail for 6 months or a year. That's a hell of a long time if you've ever been in jail. I was in jail for 10 days back in the day, you know, got busted protesting the war in Vietnam. It seemed like forever. I was thinking about suicide. I mean, I was only 16 years old, 17 years old, but, you know, so they do 6 months or a year, and people come out going, whoa, don't want to do that again. We do like 5 years. Why? Because we believe in punishment. And then again, workers want, you know, health care. Workers want protections on the job. Workers want decent wages. Workers want some flexibility in their work schedule. Why? You can't have that. You've got to have people terrified. Compassion is not part of conservatism. I realize George W. Bush tried to brand this compassionate conservatism thing. It's an oxymoron. And Americans need to realize that. It's just that simple. So anyhow, let's pick up some of your phone calls here. Michael in Howe, Michigan. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. To carry on what you were saying, I believe the Republican Party is basically corruption, that they don't really have a philosophy. Their philosophy is just making money. Because if you look at all the rants that you given us in the last few minutes, it all leads back to ways in which the wealthy can make more money. And I'm not convinced that we need reconciliation, you know, something like South Africa did, or even in court cases. I think we need it's a real problem. This corruption is really rooted deep.
I think there's a fundamental difference, Michael, between South Africa and the United States. In South Africa, you had for 200 years a white culture that believed their white supremacist BS and used the power of law to enforce it. And at a certain point, that white minority came to the realization, were forced to the realization, however you want to characterize it, that they were wrong and that everybody should have a say in their society. Everybody should have a job. We shouldn't have the barriers between black and white, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But those people who had been rigorously enforcing those laws, like de Klerk, right up until, you know, the moment that ended, something had to be done with them. But they weren't doing it. I mean, they were doing it because they were racists. True, but they grew up believing that. They had the whole infrastructure of scientific and other rationalizations, pseudoscientific, you know, that supported it. And so I don't think you could say that they were criminal in their intent. Whereas here in the United States, in the Republican Party and the Donald Trump administration, you have these, to your point, Michael, you have people who are just openly criminals. They're grifters. I mean, look at how many of Trump's close associates have been indicted or put in prison so far. And look at how many went to jail with Reagan. Reagan had the most people go to jail of any administration in history. I think it was 50 some odd. And Trump is probably going to beat him. Nixon had a bunch of guys go to jail. It's like every Republican presidency, you end up with a whole bunch of people going to jail because, as you said, Michael, they have no governing philosophy, except that, the Chicago school, Milton Friedman stuff about the market is the wonderful thing. Let the market solve all problems. Just get government out of the way. Just destroy that government. Steve Bannon, deconstruct the administrative state, tear apart the federal government, which Trump has done. And the result, we have, 245,000 dead Americans right now. More than that, actually. It's 270,000 today? Anyhow, back to you, Michael.
Thank you. Well, what I wanted to add is that after World War II, the Allies went into Germany and started a program called denazification of Germany. And I think we're sort of at that point. What I mean by that is that the belief, the corruption is so deep that it penetrates all kinds of our universities, the University of Chicago, Teri, research institutions, the media.
We're going to hit a break here real quick, Michael. Let me just put a punctuation mark on what you're saying. We need denazification here in the United States.
Yes. That's all I have to add is you're right, we do.
Yeah. I mean, we've got literal friggin' Nazis out there, celebrating Hitler, wearing swastikas, tattooing them on their arms. Michael, thank you. One of the most poignant videos I saw recently was of a nurse, a doctor, a Jewish doctor, who was treating a guy with COVID who had swastikas tattooed all over his body. And he helped save the guy's life.
Listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Or maybe the guy died at the end, but he cared for him. I don't remember the outcome. But, we've got Nazis in America. How about denazification? Great idea, Michael. And welcome back. Anthony in Port Orchard, Washington. Hey, Anthony, what's on your mind, Anthony?
Oh, well, hey, Tom, I was listening to you earlier. I really think that right-wing media brainwashes their listeners. I ran for Congress about 10 years ago in Arizona as an independent, and so I did all the radio shows around town. And I was on with the conservative radio host, a local guy, and he was telling his listeners that if you didn't fill out the census, Obama was going to lock you up in a camp. He was telling people that the reason they didn't make $20 an hour is because minimum wage, that only let your boss pay you $7.50 or whatever minimum wage was. And I called him out on his lies. I said, you can't tell people that stuff. I said, those are out-and-out lies. And I said, these people tune in to listen to you, and they take what you're saying as the gospel. And he said, I am entertainment, not news. He said, I can't be held, and he's saying this on air, he said, I cannot be held to account for the stupidity of my listeners. He said, if they're dumb enough...
Sean Hannity essentially said the same thing a couple days ago. I don't fact-check the things that I say. He came right out and said it.
And, it's just bizarre. I mean, here Flynn comes out saying we need to suspend the Constitution, declare martial law, have a new election. And the right-wing people all over Facebook and everything, it's wonderful. That's a fabulous idea. But you ask them to wear a mask, they bring out their guns, they protest and get their "Don't Tread on Me" flags. I mean, how crazy is that? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I believe it's because they have perfected brainwashing. They did what the Nazis did.
Mm-hmm.
They did what the Soviets did. They have perfected propaganda. I mean, from the time the local guys come on in the morning to the guys at Fox are done, they all have the same talking points. If you listen to them sometime, they all talk about the same exact thing all day long.
Yeah.
And it just gets reinforced. You know, it's unions' fault that you don't make a good wage. If we get rid of unions, you'll get better wages. They make them believe it. They take the unions
which is
away.
a lie.
Yeah, and nobody that I ever know that's been in a right-to-work state has ever gotten a raise or better benefits that nobody else did, because that was the lie they told. Your boss can now give you a raise, and nobody else. Never happened. You know, they tell them minimum wage is bad. They believe it. I can't believe they've sold poor people in Kentucky and other rural areas trickle-down economics. And
it's really sad.
And they buy it. They buy it.
Yeah.
I just, you know.
Well, it's because, you know, there's a real simple reason for this, Anthony, and that is that talk radio is such an intimate medium. I mean, it's like a phone call, you know, and people get to know talk radio hosts, and they think of them as sort of in the category of friends. And Ad Age did a survey back 20 years ago, and they found that 92% of Americans will trust information from friends more than they will even from celebrities, you know, celebrity endorsements and things. And this was in the context of advertising, but it's the same thing. And so these hosts build a trust relationship with their listeners and then violate that by lying to them on a daily basis. You're right, Anthony. Anthony, I got to run. I'm sorry. But thank you for the call. Spot on. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the end. I'm speaking at the Bioneers 2020 conference. It's running December 5th and 6th and 12th and 13th. My keynote is how all life is organized around democracy. Tickets are available at Bioneers.org, and there's a 20% discount with the code THOM, T-H-O-M. Did you know that there have been 8 federal judges who have been convicted and removed from the federal bench? 15 altogether have been impeached. 8 have been removed from office since the beginning. 3 of them since 1988, including one judge, Thomas Porteous down in Louisiana, who was impeached and removed from office for signing false financial declarations under penalty of perjury, which it turns out it looks like Clarence Thomas did for quite a number of years when he did not disclose, as he is required by law to do, that his wife was taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Heritage Foundation. That and his perjury around Anita Hill and others, there were numerous witnesses that didn't even get called, could legitimately spark an impeachment of Clarence Thomas. We got a video about this over at ThomHartmann.com for supporters of our program. Check it out. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and let's see here, Rudy in Atlanta, Georgia. Hey, Rudy, what's on your mind?
Afternoon. That guy, Anthony, Anthony brought up some really good points because it's true. But, you know, Tom, we're being bullied right now. And I want you and your listeners to understand that what we went through prior to the election and just after the election, that feeling of uncertainty. I mean, believe it or not, most black people live through that most of the time. And I really believe that right now we have a mandate. The Biden administration has a mandate there. I use a brick as a metaphor, but we need to take a brick to them, because if we don't this time, the next time, I don't think there'll be a next. I think it can get ugly.
Yeah. The next Republican president will flip this country into an oligarchy,
turn us out.
And
we will be done
in less than a year. because they now know how to do it. I mean, Trump showed them where all the cracks are. Rudy, you made a really important point. And Louise and I were talking about this morning. In the last week, I have done the entire New York Times crossword puzzle for the first time in my life every day. I am reading Medium.com instead of obsessively reading Drudge Report. Medium has lots of stories about things that have nothing to do with politics. You know, the story of how a disease ended the Roman Empire, or that kind of stuff. You know, a lot of science, a lot of philosophy. And it hit me last night as I was going to sleep that up until it was very clear, and that was really just a week or so ago, up until it was really clear that there's no way that Donald Trump is going to stay in the White House. For the last 4 years, I have been living in fear. I have been living on the edge. I have been obsessively checking the news all day. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'd look at the news sites and go to Raw Story and Democratic Underground and Drudge and say, okay, what's going on in the world? Those are my three of my, the top ones for me. And I stopped doing that about a week ago. And your point that black people feel like this their entire lives, I mean, for me, it was like, as a privileged white guy, and I'll acknowledge that right up front. For me, it was like these last 4 years have been scarier than hell. I'm guessing amplify that times 100, because every time I walked out of the house, I didn't confront a Proud Boy. I didn't have to worry about just walking down the street.
This is second nature. This is second nature to most black people, and we're just to the point. We just don't care. I mean, when I tell you, Tom, that the day that I voted, I saw the determination on the people's face. It wasn't nothing stopping them.
Yep.
So what I'm saying to the audience is, we're being bullied, and if we don't find some kind of way to take a brick to these people and make them understand and make them stop, then this country's over.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And we think we dodged the bullet with Trump getting kicked out, but in fact, all we did was postpone the day of reckoning.
He was a blueprint. Trump was a blueprint.
Right. Yep. Yeah, he was the Yeah, thank you, Rudy. He was the. There's some metaphor in there. Yeah, good talking to you. There's some metaphor in there, like the sacrificial lamb or something, but that would give him too much credit. Pat in Watertown, Connecticut. Hey, Pat, what's up?
How are you? Hey, just the fact that they believe this stuff and they vote not in their best interest, it blows my mind. And I'll just give you a story of a colleague of mine. His son has a rare disease, and last year alone, they rang up $1.5 million in insurance debt, and the insurance company paid for it. And prior to that, before Obamacare, you had a $1 million cap. And this year alone, up to date, he's up to $1 million. So over 2 years, it's $2.5 million. And I had asked him, before Obamacare, you would have been on the hook for $1.5 million because of the $1 million cap. That didn't bother him. It didn't bother him at all. Obamacare was socialism. It's bad for the country. And he bought it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's crazy.
That worldview is constantly reinforced, literally daily, by talk show hosts who have built trust relationships with their listeners and then feed them lies, and by Fox News, who uses the same strategy. I mean, the first thing a talk show host should do in every program is talk to their listeners, help strengthen and build that relationship. And that's what Tucker Carlson does every night. That's what Sean Hannity does every night. That's what Rachel Maddow does every night, but she's truth-based. But she spends the first half hour just talking to you, just talking to the listener, the viewer. And that's the essence of good talk radio, and why it's such a powerful medium, and why it's so dangerous when it's in the hands of people who are willing to lie for basically money and power. Pat, thank you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are X-Chair, changing the world of seating. More info at xchairtom.com. Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at gabby.com/Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouth-watering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code TOM. Boll and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bollandbranch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM.
Hey, I have a challenge for you. We really need to build Free Speech TV's listener base. We need to have, we need more viewers, listener base, viewer base. We need more viewers and the more people who are watching the network and really engaged and engrossed and loving the network, the more people will be donating money during these pledge drives like the one we're in right now. Call now, 877-378-8669. So what can you do? Well, in addition to supporting Free Speech TV financially right now, and I'll get to that in just a second, I'm putting out a Twitter challenge. I'm going to tweet out, actually I tweeted out yesterday, what do you love about Free Speech TV? And when you say Free Speech TV, it's at Free Speech TV, all one run together word. That's their Twitter handle. And I believe that there's a Free Speech TV Facebook page as well. But I'm going to focus this on Twitter. Either respond to me or create a brand new tweet that has my, that comes to me as well, and I'll promote it and whatnot. And I will follow you, in fact. So the thing would be at Thom, THOM _Hartmann. And so that's my Twitter handle. So, tweet that to me and to at Free Speech TV, and tell us what your favorite thing is, what you love the most about Free Speech TV. Is it a particular program? Is it the fact that the network's available to you on satellite TV? Is it the coverage of a particular issue? What do you care about the most, and why does Free Speech TV help you meet those needs? And let's get the buzz going. Let's get it out there. Let's bring more people into this. There is so much to do. Anyhow, it's our Free Speech TV fund drive. It's as we're heading into the holiday season, trying to recover from the political season, although it's going to continue until January. But right now, Free Speech TV needs money, and any donation that you make that is a sustaining donation, in other words, a donation where you say, yes, I commit to, take my credit card and here, or number, and ding it for $5 a month for the next 12 months, or $10 until I tell you not to, or $30 a month, or whatever, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everybody who does that, number one, you're going to get this calendar magnet, which is really kind of cool. It's a refrigerator magnet that's got activism stuff on it, as well as this coming year. But additionally, Jeffrey in California is matching donations like this between November 30th and December 6th So we're right in the middle of that right now, December 3rd. He is matching those donations up to $7,000. So your donation right now, if it's a monthly sustaining donation, he's not matching the one-time gifts, but if it's a monthly sustaining donation, your donation gets essentially doubled in terms of its impact to Free Speech TV. So call now, 877-378-8669. You know, a bunch of goodies for one-time gifts, and I'll just run through those quickly, although I'm telling you, the monthly recurring stuff is the most important. But with a $20 gift, you have a choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, it's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the Change Never Happens from the Top Down tote bag. With a $75 gift, the Free Speech TV black hat, or my favorite, the Thom Hartmann Program mug. With a $100 gift, you get your choice of a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which I swear is going to be a collector's item one day. With $120, you have your choice of the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, the Free Speech TV social distancing kit, or either of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of Oligarchy. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet. There'll be one January 13th and one February 17th, or the Free Speech TV hoodie, or the set of my book, Monopoly and Oligarchy. And with a $360 gift, it's the Thom Hartmann University winter box, Oligarchy, Monopolies, 2 face masks, and the Quarantine tumbler. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Indeed, please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, whether it's a one-time gift, you know, you want to get the 2020, I survived 2020 tumbler. I mean, it doesn't literally say that, but obviously that's implied. You know, something for kids or grandkids, whatever it may be. Or whether you would like to get the magnet and have your donation doubled by Jeffrey in California if you give a sustaining gift, if you commit to a certain amount of money over, you know, on a monthly basis, basically over time, and become a sustaining member. The sustaining members, in my mind, are at the heart of Free Speech TV. And, you know, the people who have said, yes, you know, on an ongoing basis, every single month, I commit to help in a small way, but hey, it adds up. I commit to help Free Speech TV. So please call now, 877-378-8669.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us, Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, co-founder of democracyatwork.info, the author of numerous books. His latest is The Sickness is the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself. Democracyatwork.info, rdwolff with 2fs.com are his websites. You can tweet him at Prof. Wolff. And Professor Wolff, welcome back. I'm curious your thoughts as we go into this coming legislative session, both the lame duck period and the post, you know, and when after Joe Biden gets sworn in, whether or not Democrats have control of the Senate. What are the realistic steps that can or should be taken by Congress, by the administration, by executive action, by governors around the country to put our economy back together and make things more sustainable and reduce the impact of these cyclic crashes and the idiocy of deregulation of banks, like, you know, led us to the 2008 crash, or ignoring pandemics, which led us to where we are right now?
Well, I think the kind of trick question, because of the word realistic that you put in there. Let me explain. Usually the word realistic is interpreted as though we are bound by the limits of what conventional Republicans and Democrats have been doing, and that any attempt to venture outside that framework is somehow doomed in the beginning and therefore, quote unquote, unrealistic. I think I have to break that taboo in answering your question, and my rationale for doing it, is that the problems we're facing now are of a different order of magnitude. It would have been difficult to deal with the economic crash if that's all we had, a typical every 4 to 7 year downturn that capitalism has, even a more severe one, which this certainly is. But to have this, the worst in a century, occurring at the same time and in the same country as the COVID virus is completely out of control through the failure of both the private and public sectors to prepare or contain it, that's too much. That's a level of difficulty that requires unusual steps that in the past have been thought of as quote-unquote unrealistic. Let me pick the single one that I would most favor to answer your question. And I choose it in part because we did it once before here in the United States, so it isn't unprecedented. And that is a federal program of mass employment. We did that in the 1930s. Roughly 15 million people hired between 1934 and 1941, before our entrance into World War II. And it saved people's lives, it saved their homes, it saved their self-esteem, and it was a major contributor to getting the United States through a horrific crash without turning to the kinds of fascistic solutions that people who suffered the same crash turned to in Germany, in Italy, in Spain, and so on. So that's what I would urge. We should do that. When people say, well, what would you have everybody do? I kind of smile because I want to say, are you kidding? Let me give you just a few examples. We don't have testing in this country, even now, of the sort we need to know how to combat this virus. One of the reasons we're not doing well is because we lost 9 months when we could have and should have set up mechanisms to test everybody. Hire millions of people, give them the short training they need to administer tests in an ongoing way to keep track of this disease. It's a useful thing to do. Here's a second one. We are losing a generation of people's education. Millions and millions of our young people, from kindergarten on up through college, are not basically getting much of an education. Why? Because we didn't solve the problem. We could have. We could have commandeered the empty theaters, the empty restaurants, the empty stores, created makeshift classrooms, had one teacher for every 3 or 4 students, suitably social distanced, one from the other, so that real teaching could continue. That would have, of course, required hiring millions of additional teachers, but we have 25 million people possessed of all levels of skill and training and education. We could have found from among them the kind of people that would not only have given them the job they asked for, but given us a continuation of education rather than this very serious disruption, which is going to cost our economy for decades to come. And then there's the Green New Deal, and then there's a proper daycare program to free up young parents, and then there's a program for the elderly so we are decent to people in their retirement. I mean, I'm already taking care of all of the unemployed, and I haven't gotten to a long additional list that a good collection of Americans could come up with in 5 or 10 minutes. That's what we should do. That would put the kind of money into people's pockets, and it would change the atmosphere of defeat, of chaos, of a sense of momentous decline. It would have every kind of conflict easier for us to solve. We wouldn't be looking at the tsunami of evictions scheduled for the end of this month because people put back to work would have the money to pay their rent and make their mortgage payments and so on.
So I completely agree with you on all points. And there were 100 million people roughly in the United States when Franklin Roosevelt did that deal. 15 million, that's 15% of the workforce.
That's right.
In 1925, during the Roaring '20s, it would have been unimaginable to say that we were going to start a program for old age insurance called Social Security. We were going to put 15 million people to work through a series of three-letter programs. We were going to have long-term unemployment or even any kind of unemployment insurance. We were going to establish a minimum wage. All of those things were unrealistic to the extreme in 1925. And then 1929 happened, 1930 happened. It cracked open that window and provided FDR with the opportunity. Now we've got a similar crack, in my opinion, and apparently in yours as well. And the question in my mind is whether the Biden administration and the Democrats in Congress are going to rise to it. And I realize that we all play a role in that, and that we need to create as much political pressure on them as possible to do so. Just providing, we have about a minute left here, providing them with an economic argument. Do you have any suggestions, memes to promote that might inspire our Democratic politicians, maybe even catch a few Republicans?
Here's the harshest one I can think of, but it's the only honest one I can come up with. If you don't break out of the mold, if you don't, and I'm talking here about Janet Yellen and all of the others that he's gathered as his so-called economic team, if you don't do the things you didn't think of, using exactly your model of 1929 versus 1925, what you're going to do is preside over a return to the pre-Trump normal that you talk about, and that will recreate the next Trump. It's not a choice between something comfortable and something radical. It's a choice between breaking the mold and doing something radical a la FDR, or writing your own eclipse 4 years from now, because you're going to have the same collection of forces, only now with a 4-year program to overthrow your government.
Yeah, and your own political obituary, too.
That's right. Exactly.
Yes, Professor Wolff, thanks so much. It's always great having you on. Prof. Wolff on Twitter, democracyatwork.info, and rdwolff.com on the internet. Dr. Wolff, thank you again.
Thank you, Tom.
Great talking to you. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 15 minutes past the hour. We will be back with Julian Brave NoiseCat in about 4 minutes. And welcome back. Gary in Naples, Florida. Hey, Gary, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's up?
Hello, Thom Hartmann. How are you?
Hey, greed has no heart, Gary.
All right. Greed has no heart ever. I appreciate that. You're right. This isn't complicated. Let me cut to the chase. And I like to finish with a quote from, and you've been talking about Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a very big favorite of mine and yours. We're led by a carnival barker. He's nothing more. The lion-in-chief is a carnival barker. Nothing more, nothing less. The unfortunate part, though, he has a cult following now. That's what the problem is. And
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in closing, a quote by Franklin Delano Roosevelt that is my favorite. There's a reason why he was reelected 4 times. I know it was a long time ago, but it's so very, very relevant today. He had the right philosophy, not only government, he had the right philosophy in life, a man of humility and compassion. And here's what his philosophy was. Government can err. Presidents can make mistakes. But we are told that divine justice weighs the sins of the cold-blooded and the sins of the warm-hearted on a different scale. Better the occasional fault of a government living in the spirit of charity than the consistent omissions of a government frozen in the ice of its own indifference. We must break the back of greed once more. And we won't go anywhere.
It's brilliant.
In reality. That's what brilliant. I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I believe that was from his first inaugural address, wasn't it?
It was. It was in 1933. That's right. It was either 33 or 30. I think you're right, 33. And it's a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I first heard it, thank you. I know you got to get going. I first heard it by Walter Mondale. I was coming back from Cleveland, Ohio. We're in the height of Watergate, and Mondale was on for a Saturday address by the Democrats, and he quoted that quote by Franklin Delano Roosevelt that says it all, and it's more true today.
Yeah, brilliant. Gary, thank you. Thank you. You always have something great for the show. Cassandra in Camas, Washington. Hey, Cassandra, what's up?
Hey. Yeah, I've been listening to everyone's contribution here, including Dr. Richard Wolff's. And I think I was going to say it comes down to calling things what they are to prevent the next, you can punish after the fact, but what do you do preventatively? And it always comes back to the same thing. I want to pinpoint, but it's education. I would like to say it's words, vocabulary, calling things what they are. Instead of calling people conservatives, call them elitists, and calling someone a Democrat, they're really corporatists, today. I'm not talking about what the original intent may have been, but what it is now. But words, while they hold so much power, they can be twisted. They are being twisted constantly. So is a regulatory commission of some sort that's stricter than what we have now for media going to be necessary? Of course, there's a lot of things, but basically, fundamentally, education. Why do so many of us not fall for the garbage they're sending out? Because we've been educated enough that we understand the twists that they're trying to use with words.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cassandra, thank you. And we need a revolution in our media and our education system. We need to undo the damage that Bill Bennett did back in the 80s. It's pretty mind-boggling. We'll be right back. I'm speaking at the Bioneers 2020 conference. It's running December 5th and 6th and 12th and 13th. My keynote is how all life is organized around democracy. Tickets are available at Bioneers.org, and there's a 20% discount with the code TOM, T-H-O-M. Hey, we have a new video up over at TomHartmann.com for people who support our program. It's astonishing. Just think about this. This year alone, with this one source of revenue, according to Senator Bernie Sanders, quote, this year alone, we could fund tuition-free college for all, eliminate child hunger, ensure clean drinking water for every American household, build 500,000 affordable housing units, provide face masks for everybody, produce the protective gear and medical supplies our health workers need for the pandemic, and fully fund the U.S. Post Office. Now, what is this magical thing that we could do that would produce enough money to do all these things? Fund the Internal Revenue Service. Republicans have cut its funding so badly since 2010 that fully a third of their enforcement is no longer happening. And tax cheats have walked off, or they're basically refusing to pay over $260 billion in taxes this year. You can hear the whole thing over at TomHartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And on the line with us is Julian Brave NoiseCat, who is is the Vice President of Policy and Strategy at Data for Progress, proud member of the Cannon Lake Band. And I'm not sure how to pronounce your tribe there, Julian. You want to give it to me?
It's Takaskan.
Thank you. Takaskan. And the descendant of the Lilwat Nation of Mount Curie. JulianBraveNoiseCat.com is the website. Julian is also, along with me, a presenter at Bioneers. His Twitter handle, JNoiseCat. And Julian, give me a Native American perspective, if you would, on the incoming administration, on the cabinet picks that we've seen. I understand that, rather than my guesses, I'd like to listen to you. What do you think? How are things shaking out?
Well, firstly, I would just say that my perspective is obviously just one perspective, and there's many perspectives, of course, across Indian country. There's 574 federally recognized tribes, American Indian and Alaska Native tribal communities. So, hard to say that there is one Native perspective. But I would generally say that there's a good deal of hope for the incoming Biden administration. One of the chief reasons for this is that Representative Deb Haaland of the Laguna Pueblo in the 1st Congressional District of New Mexico is being considered for the Secretary of Interior, which is a cabinet position. The Secretary of Interior leads the Department of the Interior, which is the agency that manages public lands, natural resources, and also the government-to-government relationship with those 574 tribes across the country. And we've actually never had a Native Interior Secretary. We've never had a Native Cabinet Secretary. And so the potential for Congresswoman Haaland to be tapped for that role, I think has gotten lots of Indian country incredibly excited. And for that reason, we've seen a broad groundswell of support behind her candidacy coming out of tribal leaders, as well as progressives and environmental activists. And so, I think obviously a change in power is a moment of both excitement and I think a little bit of anxiety for folks who are engaged in politics. It's the moment where we transition from campaign promises to policy implementation. But I think there is some hope that the Biden administration could make some potentially historic headway on indigenous rights and tribal affairs.
Well, and the current head of the Interior Department, who, as I recall, is a coal lobbyist or an oil lobbyist before he got this job, has been quite enthusiastic about raping and destroying lands that have been sacred to indigenous people on this continent for centuries, for millennia. And it seems like such a good thing that Deb Haaland is being considered for that. What are there other kind of high points, or do you want to speak to some of the things that Interior has done that are so destructive that you'd like to see undone?
Yeah, so, the Trump administration's record when it comes to environmental issues, when it comes to the management of public and federal lands and natural resources has been probably one of the worst of certainly the 21st century, if not, going back for a good deal of time. Just, a quick sort of cursory overview. The Trump administration removed sacred native lands like the Bears Ears National Monument and Grand Staircase Escalante from sort of their protected national monument, national park status, and started opening them up to extractive industries like mining, oil, and gas. Actually, on the 7th, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which, if your listeners will recall, was included, drilling and leasing permitting was opened up in it through the Trump tax cuts for billionaires and corporations as sort of an accounting trick to say that the Trump administration had some revenue sources lined up to pay for those tax cuts, which were going to, sort of bankrupt the Treasury in favor of putting money in the pockets of already very wealthy people. Leasing in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is going to open up on December 7th. And again, that is also land that is considered sacred by indigenous peoples, specifically the Gwich'in, who live in Alaska as well as the northern parts of Canada across the border and rely on the caribou herds that move through that landscape for their sustenance and cultural survival. So, the Trump administration has had a really tough record on these issues, and I think that, obviously putting a Native American and an environmental champion and a climate champion in that role would be great.
It's a big deal. Julian Brave, NoiseCat.
To the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Julian, Brave, NoiseCat.com, and Jay NoiseCat on Twitter. Julian, thanks for dropping by. Great talking to you. Hey, I have a challenge for you. We really need to build Free Speech TV's listener base. We need to have, we need more viewers, listener base, viewer base. We need more viewers, and the more people who are watching the network and really engaged and engrossed and loving the network, the more people will be donating money during these pledge drives, like the one we're in right now. Call now, 877-378-8669. So what can you do? Well, in addition to supporting Free Speech TV financially right now, and I'll get to that in just a second, I'm putting out a Twitter challenge. I'm going to tweet out, actually I tweeted out yesterday, what do you love about Free Speech TV? And when you say Free Speech TV, it's at Free Speech TV, all one run together word. That's their Twitter handle. And I believe that there's a Free Speech TV Facebook page as well. But I'm going to focus this on Twitter. Either respond to me or create a brand new tweet that has my, that comes to me as well, and I'll promote it and whatnot. And I will follow you, in fact. So the thing would be at Thom, Thom _Hartmann. And so that's my Twitter handle. So, tweet that to me and to at Free Speech TV, and tell us what your favorite thing is, what you love the most about Free Speech TV. Is it a particular program? Is it the fact that the network's available to you on satellite TV? Is it the coverage of a particular issue? What do you care about the most, and why does Free Speech TV help you meet those needs? And let's get the buzz going. Huh? Let's get it out there. Let's bring more people into this. There is so much to do. Anyhow, it's our Free Speech TV fund drive. It's as we're heading into the holiday season, trying to recover from the political season, although it's going to continue until January. But right now, Free Speech TV needs money, and any donation that you make that is a sustaining donation, in other words, a donation where you say, yes, I commit to, take my credit card and here, or a number, and ding it for $5 a month for the next 12 months, or $10 until I tell you not to, or $30 a month, or whatever, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everybody who does that, number one, you're going to get this calendar magnet, which is really kind of cool. It's a refrigerator magnet that's got activism stuff on it, as well as this coming year. But additionally, Jeffrey in California is matching donations like this between November 30th and December 6th. So we're right in the middle of that right now, December 3rd. He is matching those donations up to $7,000. So your donation right now, if it's a monthly sustaining donation, he's not matching the one-time gifts, but if it's a monthly sustaining donation, your donation gets essentially doubled in terms of its impact to Free Speech TV. So call now, 877-378-8669. A bunch of goodies for one-time gifts. And I'll just run through those quickly, although I'm telling you, the monthly recurring stuff is the most important. But with a $20 gift, you have a choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, it's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the Change Never Happens from the Top Down tote bag. With a $75 gift, the Free Speech TV black hat, or my favorite, the Thom Hartmann Program mug. With a $100 gift, you get your choice of a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks, or the Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which I swear is going to be a collector's item one day. With $120, you have your choice of the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, the Free Speech TV social distancing kit, or either of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of Oligarchy. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet. There'll be one January 13th and one February 17th, or the Free Speech TV hoodie, or the set of my book, Monopoly and Oligarchy. With a $360 gift. It's the Thom Hartmann University Winter Box, Oligarchy, Monopolies, Two Face Masks, and the Quarantine Tumbler. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Indeed, please call now, 877-378-8669. And make your contribution, whether it's a one-time gift, you want to get the 2020 I survived 2020 tumbler. I mean, it doesn't literally say that, but obviously that's implied. Something for kids or grandkids, whatever it may be. Or whether you would like to get the magnet and have your donation doubled by Jeffrey in California if you give a sustaining gift, if you commit to a certain amount of money over, on a monthly basis, basically over time, and become a sustaining member. The sustaining members, in my mind, are at the heart of Free Speech TV. And, people who have said, yes, on an ongoing basis, every single month, I commit to help in a small way, but hey, it adds up. I commit to help Free Speech TV. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Climate scientist Dr. Michael Mann joins the science revolution for the full episode this week. He's the creator of the hockey stick graphic that Al Gore made famous to describe global warming. His latest book is The New Climate War, and he drops by to answer the question, have humans passed the point of no return in the climate crisis? And is there hope? He also explains why storms are getting worse because of climate change. Plus, what will it mean to return to the Paris Agreement, and how will things change with scientists back in charge in the Biden administration? Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just want to clean up a couple things in the interest of always having my show be straightforward, clear, understandable, and honest. And I was less than clear, at the very least, on two issues this morning. The first, when I introduced Julian, brave NoiseCat, and asked for the Native American perspective, I should have asked for a Native American's perspective. In fact, I think anytime any host, particularly a white host, asks a member of a minority to speak on behalf of that minority, it's just stupid. And so I apologize, to him, to you. And then the second thing is, in a rant earlier, where somebody called and said, I don't want a stinking Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We shouldn't do what South Africa did. And I was trying to explain, why South Africa did that. Why did they take this step that was not violent or revolutionary and didn't put people in prison unless they admitted to their crimes? And I just did a terrible job of it. I mean, the whole, they grow up in that culture, blah, blah. I mean, that's the same excuse that people make for slaveholders in the United States. And there's a grain of truth to it, but it's largely BS. The fact of the matter is that slaveholders in the U.S. knew how evil what they were doing was and were willing to tolerate it. And de Klerk and his buddies in South Africa, regardless of the culture they grew up in, knew how evil their system was and decided to go along with it. And it wasn't until very, very strong resistance in the United States by abolitionists, in South Africa by the ANC and other movements, and that those systems were overthrown, not by the whites, the minority whites in South Africa, the majority whites in the United States, but by people of color themselves. And and it was the decision of Nelson Mandela, who had been in prison for 20 some odd years, to say, we should not be seeking retribution, we should be seeking healing. And I really want to put a fine point on that. I just, I don't know. Maybe I didn't sleep well enough last night or something, but my mind was just blithering, and I was kind of running over this in my head during the break. I always try to think back to the previous hour, and is everything good on the show, and am I presenting things clearly, and I thought, boy, I really screwed that one up. So my apologies to you, and I hope that that cleans things up. Tom in Kirkland, Washington. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I just wanted to dovetail with your conversation with Professor Wolff about the significant change in economic policies between the mid-'20s and the first Roosevelt administration. And what I wanted to say was that I believe very strongly that if the Republicans would have held the White House and their economic policies would have continued, that not only would this country have not made it through the Depression, it probably would have been far worse, but we also would have not been prepared to fight World War II. And right. I think I can't imagine what would have happened to the world if that was the case. And I feel also very strongly that we're in a very similar situation right now, and with the Trump policies towards the economy, and within the last year of basically letting everything go down the toilet, it's going to take a similar, economic policy to what Roosevelt did to pull us out of this. And I think that we have, big things coming down the pipe as big as World War II that we're going to be dealing with, like climate change and other, things like China, Russia, who knows? So we got to have our ducks in a row. We got to be prepared to deal with that.
Yeah, and Donald Trump has brought this country to its knees, and and I personally believe that he actually is acting intentionally as an agent of foreign powers. He's acting as an agent of Russia in protecting their interests and feeding them intelligence. He's acting as an agent of Saudi Arabia in protecting them politically in the Middle East. He's acting as an agent of the United Arab Emirates and shoving weapons to them. He's acting as an agent of Turkey for, in stabbing the Kurds in the back. The list could go on. He's acting as an agent of China in many ways, and of course still doing business there. And well, let me just finish this, Tom. And in every case, he's doing it because there's money in it for him. He wants to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. The Russian oligarchs backstopped his loans through Deutsche Bank. He's got business. I mean, he's got Trump Tower in Turkey. I mean, in every single case, he has either been bought off, bribed, or threatened, or blackmailed by foreign governments. And not just him, by the way. Jared Kushner is in that same category, and as well as his daughter Ivanka. And God only knows what Don, Uday and Kusei are up to, Don Jr. and Eric. But I think that that's a really important point. I'm sorry, Tom, what were you trying to say?
I was going to say that never in the history of our country that I'm aware of has a president treated our intelligence services so shabbily. Not only that, but, forfeited our intelligence in the very cavalier way that Trump has done. It's really
he doesn't even take intelligence briefings. I mean, it's crazy. And why would the President of the United States refuse to take intelligence briefings? And why would, and this is legendary. I mean, it's in several books now that whenever they would mention Russia in the briefings, he would blow up and throw them out of the room. And so they just stopped mentioning Russia. And I'm guessing that probably if they brought up Saudi Arabia or Turkey or any of the other countries that he has financial arrangements with, he would similarly blow up. And I mean, we have a criminal and I believe an agent of foreign powers in the White House, and we need to make sure that he doesn't have access to intelligence after he leaves the White House, because I'm of the opinion that he will sell it. This guy is desperate. He's $1 billion in debt. 400 million of it is personally guaranteed. And he's looking at his empire crumbling around him. You get these conservatives saying, oh, but half of America loves him. No, 27% of America voted for him. His MAGA rallies and groups are like less than 1% of America. It's a joke.
Unfortunately, it's enough to, have a close election. That's the scary part. And it's a really dangerous time for our country right now. I'm very concerned. It
is very dangerous. We are on the edge of the Thucydides trap, and we need to take it very, very seriously. Thanks a lot for the call. Len in Woodmere, New York. Hey, Len, what's on your mind?
Hi, I was listening to before, and you're just repeating it again about, not really having to listen to Trump voters. They don't make up a large percentage of the country. But I think it really is the opposite, that we have, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, have to go out into these hills and mountains where the people who came down just to vote, live, and they thrive in an environment that we as urban dwellers don't really get. And they're the ones that need to be part of the solution in terms of building infrastructure, whether it's, broadband and schools and nursing homes in their areas. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris also have to go there to get them, they've got to look at the maps of 2022 and who are the Republican senators who have to get on board. We don't need a majority if we can get Republicans to vote for infrastructure. His vibrancy.
Len, respectfully, I disagree. I don't think we need to get Republicans. We need to bully Republicans, shame Republicans, point out their games, point out how they're robbing us, point out how Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue have made millions off this pandemic while screwing the citizens of their state. Georgia still, I believe, has not expanded Medicare, for God's sake. These people don't give a rat's ass about working people. And then also we need to break the stranglehold in every red part of this country and in all of the swing states of hardcore right-wing talk radio. And I'm not talking about federal laws or anything like that. We need entrepreneurs. We need people to be starting radio stations and opening low-power FMs and whatever it may be, so that if you're driving across Wyoming, instead of hearing 11 different right-wing talk show hosts from border to border, you can hear a progressive voice once in a while. There's not a single progressive station in that state. You wonder why they elect Lynn Cheney? That's where you begin. Len, thank you. But I'm very concerned about Democrats who say, we need to bring in Republicans. Let's just compromise with them. And I realize, Len, you weren't saying let's just compromise with them. You were saying let's go after them or let's defeat them. But I'm telling you, you can't do that until you change what people think they know. We'll be right back. It's 45 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of your calls and the news of the day in just a moment. And welcome back. Jonathan in Seattle. Hey, Jonathan, what's on your mind today?
Hi. So I wanted to discuss something that you said about the undocumented workers and Reagan policy. If I understand correctly, I hope I didn't misunderstand what you're saying, but I understood you to be saying that under Reagan, there was a change in policy that stopped enforcing certain laws about undocumented workers being employed.
Yeah, just to put it in very, very simple terms, and by the way, Trump did this big bust of 7-Elevens a while ago, going mostly after Indian American immigrants who were legal immigrants who were owning these retail stores for hiring, quote, illegals. That's kind of the exception to the rule. But pre-Reagan, employers were regulated. In fact, Eisenhower had this system called the Bracero system, which was fairly racist and ultimately didn't work very well, but it was an attempt. So prior to Reagan, if somebody was in this country illegally and working, they were not the ones who got punished. It was the employer. After Reagan, the employers get off scot-free, and the individual people who have come to America either fleeing horrors or seeking a better life, or both, they get to be the ones who are punished. And now Trump has amplified that punishment 100-fold. That was my point.
Okay, so
and if we go back to punishing employers, you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are going to start saying, okay, either I should go back to Mexico or I should start working on my application for U.S. citizenship.
Yeah, okay. I think I see this agreement, it might not be as strong as I thought it was. Before 1986, there was no law against hiring a person based on their immigration status.
I believe there have been since the 1920s.
No. Employer sanctions, I disagree. Employer sanctions were introduced in the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. That was the same law. It was a compromise. So the immigrant rights forces got an amnesty, and the anti-immigrant forces got employer sanctions. I agree. They contributed to the criminalization of immigrants because in order to work, you needed to get false documents, and that is a crime. But it also there is enforcement against employers. I mean,
the Bracero program back in the 50s had penalties for employers who hired people who did not have a Bracero card.
Right. That ended in the 60s.
And in fact, the reason they ended it was because so many employers were saying to their workers, if you don't work extra time, or if you don't, let me take half your pay, or if you don't let me abuse you in some way or have sex with you or whatever, and there was a lot of that actually going on, then I'm going to take away your Bracero card, and you will no longer be able to work here in the United States anywhere. So, I mean, employer sanctions go back
against
a
hiring
ways.
an undocumented worker. You wouldn't be part of the Bracero program. But
if you're not part of the Bracero program, then you can't be legally hiring people.
Right, but for example, the I-9 form that every employer has to fill out was introduced in 1986. So,
that came in, that was part of the Immigration Reform Act. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But that was the first time
Jonathan,
across the board, employer sanctions were introduced.
Right, and then Reagan chose basically not to ever enforce them. Is where we're at. Jonathan, I got to run, but thank you for the call. We'll be back. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. So John Kasich was recently on CNN talking about how Democrats need to be listening to rural America, words to that effect. No, I think Democrats need to be talking to rural America and reminding rural America that it was a Democratic president that got them Social Security. It was a Democratic president that brought electricity to rural America, the RTA through, or the REA rather through the Franklin Roosevelt administration. It was the Democratic Party who brought phones to rural America. It was the Democratic Party that brought Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and public education to rural America, subsidized all those things. Democrats don't need to be listening to rural America. They need to be talking to rural America. There's over 1,500 right-wing radio stations in rural America talking smack all the time, 24/7, and none in rural America carrying a progressive message. That's what Democrats need to be paying attention to. You can check out our new video on this over at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Gary in Beachmont, Kentucky. It says here you disagree with me. What's up?
Well, Mr. Hartmann, I was sitting there, just turned this on, and just started looking. I think, all right, cool, Free Speech TV, everything. First off, I'm just a little older than you, I guess. I am a veteran. The ending of the Vietnam War and the Cold War with Russia and everything as we got going and stuff. And just when I heard you, just turn me off here real quick, you said we need to bully Republicans.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I thought that's a bad word. I shouldn't have used that word.
Well, I went to one of these things up here in these troubled cities, the Democrat-run cities, and being a red hat wearer and everything, the Antifa and the BLM, which is a bunch of BS as far as I'm concerned, they started coming towards us, which we are country folk. We don't You don't come to us.
You mean
and
white country folk, right?
White, yeah, I'm a white man. I am a white man. I guess I need to get me a T-shirt that says I'm white. I'm sorry.
And you don't want any black people coming in there into what is it?
Black people are here, buddy. We growed up. I growed up on that end of it where we had to go to the theater in Tennessee. Blacks went upstairs.
And what's your problem with Black Lives Matter? All they're asking for is for police to stop killing black people.
Pushing it down my throat?
What's your problem with that, Gary?
Well, if you can call them up and the blacks come up to me and call me honky, cracker, and every other name, then I'll go call them a nigger. What's the difference?
Yeah, Gary, we can't have that kind of language on the air. I was hoping we could have an interesting or productive conversation, but it ain't going to happen. John in Tampa, my apologies. John in Tampa, Florida. Hey, John, what's on your mind?
Tom, I'm wondering if you think that Biden is up to making the big changes that we need in the future, or it's going to be another, like Obama thing with just like moderation, don't push too hard, don't do nothing extravagant, just, steady with what we've had, which is not really working.
Mm-hmm. We're going to find out, John. I mean, the thing that encourages me is that Franklin Roosevelt basically in 1932 ran for president on a platform of more free trade and balancing the budget. and look at what he did when he got into office.
You're right.
On the other hand, the thing that discourages me is that Barack Obama, when he initially ran for president, ran on a campaign of single-payer health care and radical change. Not radical, he didn't say the word radical, but substantive change in the United States. And
change you could believe in.
And I realize, he only had 74 days where he could get anything done, and he got a hell of a lot done in those 74 days. But, he did not use the power of the bully pulpit, even to defend his Supreme Court nominee. He could have been out there every single day yelling about it the way Donald Trump is right now. And he probably would have gotten Mitch McConnell to back down. But there's like these two role models for Democratic presidents. Bill Clinton, the same thing. Bill Clinton wanted to do health care reform. Got shot down. He backed off. In fact, Bill Clinton started singing the Republican song, talking about welfare. We're going to end welfare as we know it. And in his second inaugural address, he said the era of big government is over, and all this kind of BS that comes out of these Republicans. And so I am concerned. But I also know that politicians don't start parades. Politicians don't walk out onto the street and lift up a flag and say, this is my parade, these are my people. Donald Trump, for his entire life, would look at somebody from Kentucky wearing a MAGA hat and say, that person's never going to come into my Mar-a-Lago. I'm never going to let that person in my club. I'm not going to invite that person to a party. But when he saw that there was a parade going on, when he started doing his racist, we got a black man in the White House and that's impossible in America. It couldn't be. He must be a stalking horse. Must be that Kenya had something to do with it. Foreign powers put him in, trying to delegitimize him. When Trump started that, he discovered that there was a friggin' parade that no politician in America was addressing, was leading. Yeah. And that was the parade of people who are white, who are fundamentally racist, and who are economically terrified because 40 years of Reaganomics have gutted the American middle class, particularly rural and suburban middle class, but particularly rural America. But we've deindustrialized this country as a result of the trade deals that Nixon and Reagan championed. I mean, keep in mind, George Herbert Walker Bush wrote the NAFTA deal. Yes, Bill Clinton signed it, but it was a Bush. This was always Republican deals. And so Trump is looking at this going, okay, if I blow up the Republican ideology and say I'm against free trade, which has always been the Republican thing, it's the Democrats like Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders who are saying we should have protectionist policies, we shouldn't be making all our stuff in China. So Trump comes along and says, okay, there's this parade that's being ignored by both parties, people who want economic protection and they're racists. Basically, they don't want black people moving into the suburbs. This was his whole pitch just recently. And so I think that he got that parade going. And the question is, will we create a big enough parade that Joe Biden will say, damn, there's a lot of people out there who want a Green New Deal and who want health care, Medicare, Medicare for all, and who want student debt done away with. And if he gets that, and if the parade is big enough, and we're part of that, then we might get what we want.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are X-Chair, changing the world of seating. More info at xchairtom.com. Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at gabby.com/Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouth-watering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code TOM. Boll and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bollandbranch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM.
Hey, I have a challenge for you. We really need to build Free Speech TV's listener base. We need to have, we need more viewers, listener base, viewer base. We need more viewers, and the more people who are watching the network and really engaged and engrossed and loving the network, the more people will be donating money during these pledge drives, like the one we're in right now. Call now, 877-378-8669. So what can you do? Well, in addition to supporting Free Speech TV financially right now, and I'll get to that in just a second, I'm putting out a Twitter challenge. I'm going to tweet out, actually I tweeted out yesterday, what do you love about Free Speech TV? And when you say Free Speech TV, it's at Free Speech TV, all one run together word. That's their Twitter handle. And I believe that there's a Free Speech TV Facebook page as well. But I'm going to focus this on Twitter. Either respond to me or create a brand new tweet that has my, that comes to me as well, and I'll promote it and whatnot. And I will follow you, in fact. So the thing would be at Thom, T-H-O-M _Hartmann. And so that's my Twitter handle. So, tweet that to me and to at Free Speech TV, and tell us what your favorite thing is, what you love the most about Free Speech TV. Is it a particular program? Is it the fact that the network's available to you on satellite TV? Is it the coverage of a particular issue? What do you care about the most, and why does Free Speech TV help you meet those needs? And let's get the buzz going. Huh? Let's get it out there. Let's bring more people into this. There is so much to do. Anyhow, it's our Free Speech TV fund drive. It's as we're heading into the holiday season, trying to recover from the political season, although it's going to continue until January. Whew. But right now, Free Speech TV needs money, and any donation that you make that is a sustaining donation, in other words, a donation where you say, yes, I commit to take my credit card and here, or number, and ding it for $5 a month for the next 12 months, or $10 until I tell you not to, or $30 a month, or whatever, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everybody who does that, number one, you're going to get this calendar magnet, which is really kind of cool. It's a refrigerator magnet that's got activism stuff on it, as well as this coming year. But additionally, Jeffrey in California is matching donations like this between November 30th and December 6th. So we're right in the middle of that right now, December 3rd. He is matching those donations up to $7,000. So your donation right now, if it's a monthly sustaining donation, he's not matching the one-time gifts, but if it's a monthly sustaining donation, your donation gets essentially doubled in terms of its impact to Free Speech TV. So call now, 877-378-8669. A bunch of goodies for one-time gifts, and I'll just run through those quickly, although I'm telling you, the monthly recurring stuff is the most important. But with a $20 gift, you have a choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, it's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the Change Never Happens from the Top Down tote bag. With a $75 gift, the Free Speech TV black hat, or my favorite, the Thom Hartmann Program mug. With a $100 gift, you get your choice of a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which I swear is going to be a collector's item one day. With $120, you have your choice of the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, the Free Speech TV social distancing kit, or either of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of Oligarchy. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet. There'll be one January 13th and one February 17th, or the Free Speech TV hoodie, or the set of my books, Monopoly and Oligarchy. And with a $360 gift, it's the Thom Hartmann University Winter Box, Oligarchy, Monopolies, 2 face masks, and the Quarantine tumbler. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Indeed, please call now, 877-378-8669. And make your contribution, whether it's a one-time gift, and you want to get the 2020, I survived 2020 tumbler. It doesn't literally say that, but obviously that's implied. Something for kids or grandkids, whatever it may be. Or whether you would like to get the magnet and have your donation doubled by Jeffrey in California, if you give a sustaining gift, if you commit to a certain amount of money over, on a monthly basis, basically over time, and become a sustaining member. The sustaining members, in my mind, are at the heart of Free Speech TV. And, the people who have said, yes, on an ongoing basis, every single month, I commit to help in a small way, but hey, it adds up. I commit to help Free Speech TV. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Revolution of 1800 by Dan Sisson and Thom.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So if you've ever had any consequential interaction with our healthcare system, particularly if you've been hospitalized, but even in the doctor's office, you've probably figured out that in many ways nurses are more important than doctors. And I find it fascinating that we have a Surgeon General. We don't have a national nurse. We discussed this on this program a few years back with Teri Mills, who's the president of the National Nursing Network and the 2019 Oregon Nurse of the Year. NationalNurse.org is the campaign to make this happen. And I'm very happy that Teri is back with us. Her Twitter handle, by the way, is Nurse Teri, Teria. And Teri, welcome back to the program. Tell us why do we need a national nurse from a public health perspective?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Tom, for that nice introduction. It's really nice to be back on your program. So the National Nurse Act is really intended to guide the delivery of prevention, bringing the unique perspective of nursing to the promotion of health in a way really that the public has never seen before. And when we first started this campaign a while back, as you know, we were looking at health conditions like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, opioid addiction, et cetera, things that still exist today, but that we're not hearing as much about. And all of these are preventable conditions. And we've learned through the years that really, according to the CDC's website, 90% of the nation's $3.5 trillion in annual health care expenditures are for people with these chronic conditions. So when we look at nurses, who, by the way, are 4 million strong in our country, health promotion and prevention is really the cornerstone of every nurse's practice. And even more importantly, we're viewed by the public as those credible messengers. The Gallup poll has voted 18 years in a row that nurses are the most trusted and ethical profession. But like you mentioned, there's still no single recognized public health nursing leader to really provide accurate education and guidance and reassurance for both the health professionals and the public. So now, fast forward to 2020, which happens to be the year of the nurse and the midwife. And concurrently, we are facing one of the most serious, challenging healthcare crises in our lifetime with COVID-19. And I know that your listeners probably have experienced some of the fear that even I myself have felt during this time. And it's really clear that we can do more. Healthcare professionals and the public are demanding accurate and timely information from a credible and trusted source. And nurses really need and deserve answers to our questions. We need PPE. We need more testing. We definitely need to bolster staffing so that we can really provide the safe care that's necessary for ourselves and our patients. And you have probably heard about vaccines. We're hearing more and more about them, and they are a source of hope. But what is missing right now is a national vaccine educational campaign, and nurses must be part of that equation, especially because Americans have such poor health literacy, which means they really can't understand just basic health information, like how to read their medication bottle. So that's a little bit of the background about the need for this.
So where is the legislation at? The last time we talked was, I think, prior to the new Congress. And, there was a bill up, and it had support broadly from Democrats, but it was not on fire at all. Where are we at now? And there's going to be a brand new legislative session starting in January. So all legislation has to be rebooted. Where are we going with that?
That's right. Good. Okay, so first let me talk to you about the bill itself. We have really been mobilized behind the National Nurse Act of 2019. The bill numbers are H.R. 1597 and Senate Bill 696. And the beauty of this bill is it does not create a new position. That's really important for your listeners to know. So because of that, we have found out through the Congressional Budget Office that to do this, what we're asking for is to designate the Chief Nurse Officer of the U.S. Public Health Service to be the National Nurse for Public Health. This nurse works right alongside the Surgeon General. Her current duties would all be retained in the bill, but very few nurses, and especially the public, realize that this position exists. And we really want to make it easy and logical for Americans to recognize that this is a great resource for public health information. And so it's very pragmatic and easy to implement. We have gained a lot of support in Congress. H.R. 1597 has 290 co-sponsors. That includes 72 Republicans. It's one of the most bipartisan bills in the United States Congress. It also has an identical companion bill, Senate Bill 696, which is co-led by Senators Merkley and Capito with 27 co-sponsors. Not only that, but there's 114 endorsing organizations. And we really believe that the coronavirus epidemic should have been the catalyst that passed this legislation this session, but unfortunately it did not. So we can talk more about that if you want to know like what the plan is for now.
Sure. Well, what's the plan going forward here? We have about 2 minutes left.
We feel that this is something that needs to happen immediately because of the COVID-19 crisis, and especially because we really need to be able to inspire the nurses, the 4 million nurses, to become engaged in the vaccination program that needs to be put forward nationally. And so what we'd like to see is we would like to see President-elect Biden, when he's addressing our national health care crisis, proclaim the chief nurse officer of the Public Health Service as the national nurse for public health. And currently, that nurse would be Rear Admiral Aisha Nix. She is the chief nurse, and she leads 4,500 commissioned corps and civilian nurses. And they are already working to reduce health disparities and promote health. And why does this make so much sense? Because nurses are in every single community. Like you said, everybody's encountered a nurse in their life, and we are trusted. And when we talk, the public listens to us. We know how to translate all that confusing medical language into messages that patients and families can truly understand. And when nurses are involved, they really promote positive patient outcomes. We have the experience, we've got the skills, and we need we have the knowledge. What we're missing is we need that leadership. We need that direction. So that's why we just feel this. We feel the fierce urgency of now to get this done.
So you think there's a chance that this could pass in this Congress and be signed into law by Trump?
No, I do not.
So
I think this bill is absolutely dead because we've already heard that the House of Representatives is thinking about leaving next week. December 11th would be the last day. So
and everybody's focused on the stimulus. Yeah, I get that.
Exactly.
So this needs to be something on the legislative agenda for next year. And so let me just say right now, as we get into the next year and things settle down a little bit and some regular order seems to return to the country, let's talk again, Teri, on this program, and you can give us an update on how it's going and what people can do, okay?
Okay, I'm really hoping people will contact President-elect Biden's transition team and let him know that this is something that he can do right now for the country, which would be great.
Great, you've got it. Teri Mills with nationalnurse.org. Thank you, Teri.
Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 15 minutes past the hour. Boy, the latest little trick, well, I got to tell you about what's happening in Georgia now. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Let's see here. Steve in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Steve, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Geez, I was on hold for almost 2 hours. I thought you almost forgot about me.
I'm sorry. I see that I've got a couple of other people who've been on hold for an hour or thereabouts. Anyhow, what's up?
It happens. Well, I was going to change my topic a little bit. I just had prostate cancer surgery. And
I went through that. I empathize.
You had it too?
Yeah, I had it about 5-6 years ago. Yep.
Oh my God! I knew you had some surgery. Did you have the Da Vinci one?
They did it robotically. I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, that's it.
Probably.
Oh my God! Yeah. I don't know about the recovery time, but for incontinence, but it's a tough thing.
It is.
And I just want to thank God for Medicare Part A and B, and having a good supplement because it's so important, and we so much need Medicare and everything for all,
I agree.
It's. Can I ask you just one question? How long did it take for you to get control of your urinary continence, if I may ask?
Well, I had a problem, and the doctor screwed up the surgery, and my stomach started filling up with urine, and I almost died, and I went back into the hospital in the emergency room and all that kind of stuff. So it took months, but my case was different. I think normally it doesn't take very long. A couple of months at the most, maybe. It depends. It depends on the skill of the surgeon and all that kind of stuff. But Steve, it's not a topic that I think we should be discussing on the radio. So, and you wanted to talk about Mitch McConnell being prosecuted. Is that what you called about?
Well, yeah. If you I'll get to it real quick. He hasn't done anything for our country in the last 12 years. He tabled everything that Obama did, and it's just terrible. He's let our country go with this pandemic here, the COVID. No relief for anybody. It's just absurd. What do you think? Do you think there's any chance we could get? It's a dereliction of duty on his part. Do you think there's any prosecution attempts that we could do for him?
No, because elected officials are covered by sovereign immunity and other doctrines that the Supreme Court has come up with over the years that say basically if you want to hold a politician accountable outside of a real crime, if you want to hold them accountable for what you might call a political crime, malfeasance or not performing your job or whatever, the way you do that is by voting them out of office.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Be well.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Steve. Good talking to you. The Republicans in Georgia, this is just an amazing story. They're now, Brian Kemp is using Donald Trump's false allegations of voter fraud in Georgia. On the one hand, saying there's no such thing, and on the other hand, saying we need to crack down on all these people who are voting. They're going to, a whole new wave of voter suppression in Georgia is on its way. What I don't know, and I haven't been able to find in any of the stories I've read about this, Raffensperger and Kemp are both in on this, is whether they're going to be able to put it into place before January 5th. So we'll see. But it's an amazing thing. Anyhow, we'll be right back. We're coming up on 20 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stick around. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. So in election news, the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin was the final appeal for Donald Trump in his efforts to overturn or even just recount or re-recount the Wisconsin vote. And the state Supreme Court said, which is, it's got a fair number of conservatives on it. I know there was one big swing vote, and I don't recall, frankly, whether it's, one vote, whether they have a one-seat majority by conservatives or a one-seat majority by liberals. Or if it's tied or whatever, but this court has been doing the bidding, the dancing to the tune of Charles Koch and Scott Walker for years. And Trump brought his crazy-ass schemes to this court. I don't know if you saw any clips of that hearing that they had yesterday where this drunken woman was just going on and on about how there's more voters than there are registered voters. There's more which is just all lies. I mean, the source actually of some of those lies was a tweet that Trump retweeted a couple of days ago, where he pointed out that, there were a certain number of people who showed up to vote, and then there were a certain number of tabulated votes. So let's say 10,000 people showed up to vote, but there were 25,000 votes. What's wrong with this picture? It was basically his tweet. Well, it turns out that the 10,000 people who showed up to vote was in the primary, and the 25,000 people who actually voted was in the general election. It's comparing apples and oranges and saying, why aren't they the same? And this woman was going on and on about this. So anyhow, the Supreme Court in Wisconsin has said, screw it, we're not going to do it. You know, it's crazy. Meanwhile, down in Georgia, Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, while they're explicitly saying, this last election, we did it, and it's good, and everything's fine, and there's no fraud, and everything's solid, now they're saying, you know, that stuff that Donald Trump talks about with the mail-in ballots, we need to nail that down. Now that most liberals, most Democrats, and a lot of black people are voting with mail-in ballots, we've got to figure out a way to cut the number of those mail-in ballots that actually get counted. This is going to be the new frontier in Republican voter suppression, because the only way Republicans can hold on to power in at least a half a dozen states, maybe more like a dozen, is by suppressing the vote of young people, of people who live in cities, of black people, of Hispanics, of Asians, and of people over 65. Oh, your driver's license has expired. I'm sorry, you can't vote. Who might want to vote to protect their Medicare and Social Security. So get ready, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from Greg Palast on this in the coming weeks, that, you know, this is their latest scheme, and it's just nuts. Meanwhile, there's a report that Donald Trump came into this was a meeting with Mitch McConnell and Todd Young. Todd Young's the senator from Indiana. He's not a very high-profile guy. Most people have never heard of him. But he's the Republican senator from Indiana. He was in a meeting with the Republican senator from Kentucky and the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. And they were talking about, you know, normal stuff or whatever they were talking about. And all of a sudden, Trump says, you know, we need to support Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the person who was just elected to the House of Representatives, who's a big believer in one of the most whack job conspiracy theories out there, that Democrats want the blood of children for their matzah or whatever it may be. I mean, it's a variation on the old blood libel, the anti-Semitic hate meme that was first promoted by the Tsar's security service in 1910 and then was picked up by Hitler and promoted, and now it's back, only instead of Jews being the evil people, it's now Democrats. Except that they keep referring to George Soros, who is, you know, in right-wing world, just a stand-in for Jews. So, but anyhow, they're having this meeting in the White House, and Trump starts going off on Marjorie Taylor Greene and these very good people. She said, these are people who basically believe in good government. He's talking about the followers of this whack job conspiracy theory. He says, these are people who basically believe in good government. And then the report in today's Washington Post says the room was silent again before Mark Meadows, the White House Chief of Staff, leaned forward to say, I've never heard it described that way. Right. These people believe that Robert Mueller and John Kennedy Jr., who they think is still alive, are secretly planning a martial law operation called the Storm that is going to take down those Democrats who are drinking the blood of children. Honest to God. And Marjorie Taylor Greene will be in Congress. She'll be sworn in in first week of January. And Trump is like all over it. He's figured out his base. I mean, anybody who is gullible enough to believe these kinds of conspiracy theories is gullible enough to send Donald Trump $50 a month. Or in the case of the new fundraisers where they pre-check the box, $50 a week. I mean, Trump just raised $170 million after losing the election. So now when he embraces conspiracy theorists, I mean, he's already got the people who believe the earth is flat and only 6,000 years old, right? The religious fundamentalists. He's got the people who think that police should be making decisions about whether women have abortions or access to birth control, or whether their miscarriages were intentional or not. This was Mike Pence's big thing when he was governor of Indiana, that every woman should record their periods, and if your period is late, you should report yourself to the police so that you can be observed to make sure you don't do anything that might put that child, in quotes, at risk. And now this whole drinking the blood of children stuff and the storm and the secret stuff, all this. If people are gullible enough to believe that, they are the perfect target for Trump's next scam. I mean, he used to just prey on people who wanted to have, a better job, or figure out how to make a living with real estate. Now he's got a whole new band of suckers.
Listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
You think these people are going to wake up? Or maybe a better question, what will it take for them to wake up? Hey, I have a challenge for you. We really need to build Free Speech TV's listener base. We need to have, we need more viewers, listener base, viewer base. We need more viewers and the more people who are watching the network and really engaged and engrossed and loving the network, the more people will be donating money during these pledge drives like the one we're in right now. Call now, 877-378-8669. So what can you do? Well, in addition to supporting Free Speech TV financially right now, and I'll get to that in just a second, I'm putting out a Twitter challenge. I'm going to tweet out, actually I tweeted out yesterday, what do you love about Free Speech TV? And when you say Free Speech TV, it's at Free Speech TV, all one run together word. That's their Twitter handle. And I believe that there's a Free Speech TV Facebook page as well. But I'm going to focus this on Twitter. Either respond to me or create a brand new tweet that has my, that comes to me as well, and I'll promote it and whatnot. And I will follow you, in fact. So the thing would be at Thom, Thom _Hartmann. And so that's my Twitter handle. So, tweet that to me and to at Free Speech TV and tell us what your favorite thing is, what you love the most about Free Speech TV. Is it a particular program? Is it the fact that the network's available to you on satellite TV? Is it the coverage of a particular issue? What do you care about the most, and why does Free Speech TV help you meet those needs? And let's get the buzz going. Let's get it out there. Let's bring more people into this. There is so much to do. Anyhow, it's our Free Speech TV fund drive. It's as we're heading into the holiday season, trying to recover from the political season, although it's going to continue until January. But right now, Free Speech TV needs money, and any donation that you make that is a sustaining donation, in other words, a donation where you say, yes, I commit to, take my credit card and here, or number, and ding it for $5 a month for the next 12 months, or $10 until I tell you not to, or $30 a month, or whatever, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everybody who does that, number one, you're going to get this calendar magnet, which is really kind of cool. It's a refrigerator magnet that's got activism stuff on it, as well as this coming year. But additionally, Jeffrey in California is matching donations like this between November 30th and December 6th. So we're right in the middle of that right now, December 3rd. He is matching those donations up to $7,000. So your donation right now, if it's a monthly sustaining donation, he's not matching the one-time gifts, but if it's a monthly sustaining donation, your donation gets essentially doubled in terms of its impact to Free Speech TV. So call now, 877-378-8669. A bunch of goodies for one-time gifts. And I'll just run through those quickly, although I'm telling you, the monthly recurring stuff is the most important. But with a $20 gift, you have a choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, it's the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the Change Never Happens from the Top Down tote bag. With a $75 gift, the Free Speech TV black hat, or my favorite, the Thom Hartmann Program mug. With a $100 gift, you get your choice of a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which I swear is going to be a collector's item one day. With $120, you have your choice of the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, the Free Speech TV social distancing kit, or either of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of Oligarchy. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet. There'll be one January 13th and one February 17th, or the Free Speech TV hoodie, or the set of my book, Monopoly and Oligarchy. And with a $360 gift, it's the Thom Hartmann University Winter Box, Oligarchy, Monopolies, 2 face masks, and the Quarantine tumbler. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Indeed, please call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, whether it's a one-time gift, you know, you want to get the 2020, I survived 2020 tumbler. I mean, it doesn't literally say that, but obviously that's implied. You know, something for kids or grandkids, whatever it may be. Or whether you would like to get the magnet and have your donation doubled by Jeffrey in California if you give a sustaining gift, if you commit to a certain amount of money over, you know, on a monthly basis, basically over time, and become a sustaining member. The sustaining members, in my mind, are at the heart of Free Speech TV. And, you know, the people who have said, yes, you know, on an ongoing basis, every single month, I commit to help in a small way, but hey, it adds up. I commit to help Free Speech TV. So please call now, 877-378-8669. I'm speaking at the Bioneers 2020 conference. It's running December 5th and 6th and 12th and 13th. My keynote is how all life is organized around democracy. Tickets are available at Bioneers.org, and there's a 20% discount with the code TOM, T-H-O-M. Hey, we have a new video for supporters of our program over at TomHartmann.com. It's about curing type 1 diabetes, which is a pretty amazing thing. Type 1 diabetes is where the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin are actually destroyed. They're gone. Type 1 diabetics, typically it shows up in childhood, and without insulin, people die from it fairly young. With insulin, they can live a good long life, but a University of Alberta researcher, Dr. James Shapiro, back in 1990, pioneered a transplant system. Now, the problem with that was that people had to use immunosuppressive drugs for the rest of their lives because they had just gotten, you know, a partial pancreas transplant from another person. But now he's successfully, on mice, worked out a way of actually curing type 1 diabetes. We can't do it legally here in the United States, but they're doing it in Canada. It's amazing. You can check it out at TomHartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. One other thing I wanted to point out to you is Judd Legum in his popular.info newsletter today. That's the website, popular.info, if you want to sign up for it. His title is Death by Eviction. He says, in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, 244 families have been evicted from their homes just since September 4th. Just last week, landlords filed 2,358 eviction cases in 27 cities. This is a Princeton University group that is tracking this, the eviction lab, they call it. They did an analysis. This was a new study by public health researchers at Johns Hopkins and UCLA at the consequence of the expiration of these moratoriums on eviction. Because the federal ones, the CDC one was pretty toothless and meaningless, and the state ones have been strong, but they're expiring. And they have been expiring ever since June, different months, different states, but they're expiring. And Judd Legum says the results are chilling. This is from the study. Quote, lifting eviction moratoriums amounted to an estimated 433,700 excess COVID cases and 10,700 excess deaths. just between March 13 and September 3rd. These fatalities occurred across 27 states that lifted their eviction moratoriums. In Texas alone, for example, the study found that there were more than 4,456 people who died, excess deaths, after the state lifted its eviction moratorium. Why is that? Well, because when you get homeless, typically the first place that people try to go if they're homeless is family or friends, which means congregate living. You got more people under the same roof. Somebody gets the virus and boom, it just rips through. And then secondly, a lot of these people actually end up on the street. They end up literally homeless. And for people who even haven't gotten out of their houses, haven't been thrown out of their houses, they still have to pay the rent. And in that regard, we see that there's been a 70% increase this year over last year of people paying their rent with credit cards. 70% increase. When somebody starts paying their rent with their credit card, I mean, there's a few people who routinely do it because they want the frequent flyer miles or something. You know, they got one of these credit cards that gives you goodies. But generally speaking, when people are paying their rent with their credit cards, it's because they don't have any savings. They are out of money. They can't afford it. And they're creating massive debt that they're going to pay 30% interest on. And this is from a study by NPR. The last time Congress passed a COVID relief bill that had, it was over 7 months ago. The new bill that the problem solvers group, problem makers, Mark Pocan calls them, these Republican and Democratic moderates. But, hey, something's better than nothing, in my opinion. $908 billion package includes $25 billion in rental assistance. It's not enough. We need about $100 billion given what's going on right now, but it's a start. The best estimate is that right now, renters owe over $70 billion in unpaid rent. The CEO of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, Diane Yentl, said that it would take at least $100 billion in rental assistance to keep people from losing their homes. So Mitch McConnell proposed a bill, for COVID assistance that has a dramatic $0 for rental assistance and housing assistance. Zero. Now, the Democrats had already pushed a bill that provided have already passed a bill in the House of Representatives. This wasn't the $3 trillion HEROES Act. This was the $2 trillion we'll compromise with you and cut $1 trillion of benefits out Act. $50 billion in rental aid for people at risk of eviction, $5 billion in homeless assistance grants, and Mitch McConnell said no. Won't do it, won't even allow a discussion of it. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Jim in San Jose. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Hi, I wanted to make a comment about our economic system that I think you're touching on, or you touch on sometimes, but we need to talk about it more, I think. Obviously, the coronavirus revealed the weaknesses in our economic system. Our economy has gone downhill because the demand has slowed down, right? And so we're using fewer resources, but that should be a good thing, not a problem. As long as we're getting the essential, as long as people are getting what they need, like food, and they're able to pay the rent. So economists usually tell us that the way to get the economy going again is to get money to average people so they can create demand. And that's true, but it's not really good. We shouldn't have to consume our way out of trouble and burn up more resources. So
Jim,
I guess my point is really that
right now, 1 in 5 American families cannot feed their children. We're not talking about stimulus. We're talking about survival.
Right. So I think we need to talk about a different economic system, not just tweaking or fixing the current economic system. That's really my main point.
I don't disagree with you, and I would love to have that debate, but it's not something that's going to happen in the next 6 months.
I agree, but either is Medicare for all, but we at least.
Well, I think we need to more seriously regulate capitalism. We need take a lesson from Franklin Roosevelt and rein in these corporate titans and also take a lesson from Teddy Roosevelt and start breaking up some of these giant monopolies.
Well, I guess I listened to Richard Wolff there when he says that we've done that already, and it's been undone by the Republicans.
That's correct. That's correct.
So,
and I guarantee you that if we were to say tomorrow, okay, we're no longer going to have C corporations. You can no longer start a company. You've got to have, every corporation has to be owned by all of its employees. I guarantee you within a week, somebody would figure out a way to get around that. And so it's not, I just think, saying we're going to end capitalism is not something that is going to happen, and I'm not even sure it's something that should happen, frankly. I think that there are aspects of capitalism, and Adam Smith talked about this at length in his theory of moral sentiments. There are aspects of capitalism that can be controlled and regulated to make it a less destructive system. But the idea of continuous growth, which I think is what you're talking about, the idea that consumption is the beginning and end of all things, those are not necessarily intrinsic to capitalism. Capitalism thrives when those beliefs are promoted, but they could just as easily be transplanted to an employee-owned system. This is the stuff that's affecting the entire planet. And so, I think we need a little more comprehensive perspective on the whole thing. But, well, actually, I'm going to move along. Jim, thank you for the call. James in Montgomery, Alabama. Hey, James, what's on your mind?
Professor Hartmann, the master of Progressive University on the radio. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James.
I'm still blown away talking about Mitch McConnell. One of his constituents participated earlier, and
yes.
I think we learned everything we need to know. About,
this is the sad thing, Jim. We've had, I am on a regular basis. I mean, you're listening to me on SiriusXM. SiriusXM has a couple of conservative channels, and they got a great progressive channel, 127, right here, Sirius Progress. And so I am all constantly telling, and I know that there's conservatives who listen to this show on that channel, and I'm constantly saying, hey, if you're a conservative and you think I'm wrong about something, call me up, put you on the air, we'll have a reasonable debate. And the last 4 conservatives who've called in over the last, 2 weeks, each one of them has dropped an obscenity on the air. And it's not like they're trying to punk me. It's not like they're calling up to do it. It's just that as soon as you point out their BS, they lose control and start using words that they know shouldn't be on the air. It's like, what happened to self-control? It's sad.
Well, and the real tragedy is that these people have the right to vote. I mean, and they're turning out.
I think everybody should have the right to vote. I'm sorry, James. I don't want to cut people's right to vote. I don't want to cut their right to listen to right-wing talk radio. I think we just need to educate people. We need to be talking back. We need to be using the airwaves, appropriately. James, I'm sorry, we're out of time, but thanks for the call and thanks for listening to us on SiriusXM. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls here on the place where smart people get their news. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back in just a moment with more of your calls. Stick around. And welcome back. Joan in Rochester, Minnesota. Hey, Joan, what's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking about Georgia, and I was thinking that the speech that Donald is giving out, or the talk he's giving about the Republicans not voting, is a ploy to make the Democrats complacent with going out and voting because they think their Republicans are not going to vote. And that's a mismessage, and I hope the Democrats, from the youngest to the oldest, get out as hard as they can and vote that day. And if somebody tries to suppress their vote at the voting booths, that they stand up for themselves and find somebody that will help them get through that line, because it's just a ploy for people not to think that they can go out and vote because the Republicans aren't voting. It's just a misnomer, and it would cause a big, big mess in Georgia. Listen to the gal, what's her name? Stacey Abrams. Get out, you Democrats, from young to old, and vote for your Democratic people on Election Day. Thank you.
The thing I find, thank you, Joan. The thing I find most amazing about this is that Donald Trump is running around going, these elections are all fraudulent. A couple of days ago, I don't recall whether it was Raffensperger or some other Republican state official in Georgia, was trying to address a group of voters, and they were like, why should we vote? The election's rigged. Trump told us it's rigged. I'm not going to vote. You know, it's already decided, et cetera. And he was like, no, they're not rigged. They're not rigged. And so now Trump is going to come down to Florida and try to get Republicans to get out there and vote for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, two of the apparently most criminal members, if it's a crime to do insider trading and get rich on an epidemic while people around you are dying. Two of the most criminal members of the Senate. He's going to come down and make a pitch for them, and he's going to and the people, the Republicans, excuse me, are just hysterical about this. They're very, very worried that in the middle of his David Perdue's a wonderful guy, and I need Kelly Loeffler so we can continue passing right-wing crank stuff through the Senate. That in the middle of that, he might say, oh, and by the way, Georgia rigged the election, and I hate Brian Kemp, because he's already said those things, right? And if he says those things in Georgia, it's going to kill Republican turnout, it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And so it's getting real interesting, Joan. I mean, you've got, on the one hand, Georgia Republican officials saying, everything's fine, just vote, don't worry, Dominion systems, our voting machines, they're good. You know, everything's been looked at, it's solid. And on the other hand, you've got Trump saying the election was rigged and there's millions of votes that shouldn't have been counted, and don't even bother. And it's getting very strange. And how they're going to square that circle looks to me like it's going to be this strategy that Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, just rolled out, which is that they're going to start looking very carefully at the signature on the outside of the envelope and comparing it with the card that people signed when they first registered to vote. And right now, if there's, you can have a few differences, but, if it looks pretty much the same, then they count the vote. Well, they're going to say it's got to be exactly the same. Where he crossed the T, it only went 3/4 of an inch, or it went 3/4 of the inch on the original, only went 1/2 inch on this one. So we're going to throw this vote out because it came from Atlanta. That's what's coming. Climate scientist Dr. Michael Mann joins the science revolution for the full episode this week. He's the creator of the hockey stick graphic that Al Gore made famous to describe global warming. His latest book is The New Climate War, and he drops by to answer the question, have humans passed the point of no return in the climate crisis? And is there hope? He also explains why storms are getting worse because of climate change. Plus, what will it mean to return to the Paris Agreement, and how will things change with scientists back in charge in the Biden administration? Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. Jerry in Chester, Virginia. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, how's it going? I love the show. I was just thinking, if we don't get those two senators, if we don't get the two Democratic senators in Georgia, if we don't win that, I mean, I think Biden's just going to be a lame duck president for 4 years. And I'm not even sure that the Democrats could keep the House in when is it, in 2 years when they come up for votes. So I think if we don't get those two senators elected and make Kamala Harris the president of the Senate so we can get stuff done, we're in, I don't know what's going to happen to this country, to tell you the truth. What do you think?
Jerry, I share your concerns and your analysis of the importance of this election in Georgia. I totally get it, and I totally agree with you. That said, if either Perdue or Loeffler beat either Warnock or Ossoff in that race, and therefore Mitch McConnell continues to be the Senate Majority Leader, A, there might be a plan B with regard to Kamala Harris being the president of the Senate to get things done. And more and more voices of constitutional scholars are weighing in saying, wait a minute, if she's the president of the Senate, she can simply go in and she can call on any senator to call a vote for any piece of legislation, which is the power that McConnell has used up to this point, is refusing to allow hearings to be held for, everybody from Supreme Court nominees on down, refusing to allow bills to come to the floor, refusing to allow committees to report out to the floor. If Kamala Harris is president of the Senate, both tradition and I believe the law say that she can force those things. She can force his hand. And the question is she going to be willing, and will Biden support her in being willing to have the moral fortitude and courage to take this on, even if it gets bumped up to the Supreme Court? And that's a question I don't know the answer to. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. I mean, I thought Obama should have gone after Mitch McConnell with both. I mean, he could have put Joe Biden in front of the Senate and said, okay, I'm taking over here, in my opinion. And he never did, although that was not a topic of serious discussion back then because Obama wasn't making noise about Merrick Garland every day, like a Republican would have done. But I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the.
She don't want to. She's going to run. Well, she wants to run in 2024 too, so she can't come up as being the angry black woman. You know what I mean? Screaming in the Senate. She being who? So she's kind of.
Oh, Kamala Harris.
Say again?
Yeah. Oh, I don't think people have to worry. Frankly, I don't think she has to worry about that label any longer. People are. That's just an old Republican trope, I think. Jerry, thank you for the call. Pam in Mount Airy, Maryland, it says you disagree with me, so you go to the front of the line. What's up, Pam? We've got about 2 minutes here.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. I believe that the states need to say we need to go into investigation because there's been so many signed affidavits. There's a pile of proof, but the only way that we can see that we have a fair election, regardless of which side gets it, I want to know that the voting is pure and clean, and I think we need to go investigate. Take the time to do it so we don't have this happen again. You realize that the swing states have already done that. They've recounted every single vote. They've looked at every single ballot. They've looked at the results of every single voting machine. And Republican secretaries of states and governors have come out and said, we got the numbers right. Donald Trump lost. No, I don't believe that's not true. If you use the same machines, if you use the same machines and you go to the system the same way that you did before, you're still going to have machines that are turning up votes that are coming in from outside of our country. And also,
no, these machines are not connected to the internet, generally speaking. But Pam, I share your skepticism about voting machines. I think we should do away with them. Here in Oregon, where I live, I realize you're in Maryland. I'm in Oregon.
Right.
About 4, 5, 6 weeks before the election, I get my ballot in the mail along with a booklet that has all the candidates and all the judges and all the ballot measures. And Louise and I sit down at the kitchen table and we fill out our ballots, and if there's anybody we don't know, we Google them, and we become informed voters this way. We lick the stamp, walk it out to the front of the street.
I feel that as an American. I think that my uncles who died, some of them got harmed. I had my aunt's brother has fought for freedom in this country. He was in prison camp, a POW throughout most of the entire Vietnam War. It's one of the last ones that was released. And I'm like, I feel like we're losing the America. There's things that are being lied about. There are things that are being covered up, and nobody wants to talk about it. And I believe it's big money, and I do believe that China is ruling, and big money is ruling, and they're trying to cut us off. And we don't have freedom. Our freedoms have been ridden
to a certain extent, you are right.
Over again here. And
big money is screwing us. I'm with you. And let's get rid of voting machines. Let's do that. Let's have everybody in the country vote on paper by mail so that we can guarantee that every vote, so we can audit every vote. We can look at every vote. I'm with you, Pam. Pam, thank you for the call. I mean, I'm not totally down with Donald Trump won, but, you know, yeah, you got skepticism about the system, and there's another system that is easily audited. Why not do that? For 20 years, we've been doing it in Oregon. In all that time, we've had like 12 cases of people who shouldn't have voted. Washington State, there's 5 states that do it. Anyhow, have a great afternoon. Get out there, get active, tag you're it, and all that kind of thing. Be good to yourself and the people around you.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are X-Chair, changing the world of seating. More info at xchairtom.com. Gabby.com. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at gabby.com/Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouth-watering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code TOM. Boll and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bollandbranch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM.